Chapter 23. Miss Yunyun, I told you beforehand that everything that comes out of this box is random. There might be nothing at all. Chu Bei avoided Yunyun's murderous gaze. But you didn't tell me that the probability of getting an item is so low. Yunyun gritted her teeth. 5 Class 5 magical beast magic cores were wasted just like that. Rumble. Just as Yunyun was about to say something, there was a rush of hooves outside the cave. They're here! Hearing the commotion, Yunyun's expression changed. Although her seal had been broken and her wounds had healed, she had not recovered to her peak state yet. With her current strength, she would definitely die if she went up against the amethyst-winged lion. As expected, in just a few seconds, 3 Class 4 magical beasts ran into the cave. When they saw Chu Bei and Yunyun, they roared at the same time, spreading far and wide. Damn it! Yunyun's expression was serious. She immediately waved her sword, and several large dark green wind blades rushed out. In an instant, the 3 Class 4 magical beasts were cut into pieces by the wind blades, and blood and flesh splattered everywhere. The amethyst-winged lion is coming! Yunyun looked at Chu Bei, and her aura began to rise. She was ready to fight at any time. Don't be nervous. Chu Bei gave Yunyun a reassuring look. As my customer, I have the obligation to ensure your safety. Yunyun did not reply, but the serious expression on her face was obviously more relaxed. Human, I'm going to tear you into pieces. At this moment, a powerful energy wave came from above the cave, and the huge mountain shook. Accompanying it was the amethyst-winged lion's roar that was filled with killing intent. Chu Bei and Yunyun left the cave at the same time and stood at the edge of the cliff. You actually managed to undo this king's seal. How is that possible? The amethyst-winged lion's huge eyes were suffused with a blood-red purple light, and clusters of flames were spiraling around the tip of its broken horn. When it sensed the fluctuation of Yunyun's aura, its eyes flashed with surprise. Is he the helper you found? Then let's kill them as well. The amethyst-winged lion looked at Chu Bei. As it flapped its purple wings, faint purple flames swept down like a flamethrower. Almost in an instant, the temperature of the air at the edge of the cliff rose abruptly, like a large furnace. Yunyun snorted coldly. She raised her hand and a small green tornado swept out from her palm. At first, the tornado was only 2 meters in size, but when it flew high into the sky, it suddenly expanded, and in the blink of an eye, it became a huge tornado that was nearly 300 meters in size. However, before this huge tornado could touch the purple flames that covered the sky and earth, Chu Bei's strange eyes released a demonic light. Then, the blazing purple flames twisted and disappeared into thin air. What's wrong with your eyes? The amethyst-winged lion stared at Chu Bei. It could sense that the strange disappearance of its attack had something to do with Chu Bei's eyes. Chu Bei only glanced at the amethyst-winged lion indifferently, and did not answer the other party's question. This king wants you all dead. Realizing that it was ignored, the killing intent in the amethyst-winged lion's eyes intensified. An angry lion's roar sounded. The purple light in the amethyst-winged lion's eyes suddenly intensified, and its huge paws brought along a gorgeous purple light, and its huge body swooped down. Wherever the paws passed, there would be a sharp sound wave that seemed to cut open the void. Looking at the amethyst-winged lion's fierce attack, Yunyun frowned slightly. She crossed her hands, and a huge green wind shield that was nearly 10 meters in size suddenly appeared in front of her. After the protection, Yunyun looked at Chu Bei beside her. The other party did not dodge, nor did he make any defensive moves. 10,000 heavenly attraction. Chu Bei opened his right hand, and his palm was aimed at the amethyst-winged lion that was charging at him. Just as Chu Bei's calm voice fell, the amethyst-winged lion's huge body suddenly stopped, as if it had suddenly received a terrifying electric shock. In the next moment, although it was still flying towards Chu Bei, it had lost control of its body. It did not look like it was swooping down, but more like it was being pulled by an irresistible suction force. What did you do to me? The amethyst-winged lion's huge eyes were filled with fear. Shinra Tensei. Chu Bei was expressionless, and his mouth once again uttered the indifferent syllable. Almost at the same time, large amounts of ripples began to appear around Chubei's body, and these ripples frantically gathered towards his palm. Seeing that the amethyst-winged lion was about to be pulled to Chubei's side by the suction force, the energy gathered in Chubei's palm suddenly exploded. A terrifying repulsive force spewed out. Bang! With a low rumble, a hole with a diameter of 1/2 meter appeared in the amethyst-winged lion's chest. Fresh blood flowed out, and it was a ghastly sight. Its huge body was shot into the sky like a cannonball under this repulsive force. The miserable lion's roar resounded through the sky, and the magical beasts in the forest below prostrated themselves on the ground, not daring to move. Humans, even if I die, I will drag you down with me. After a moment, the amethyst-winged lion once again appeared in Chubei and Yunyun's line of sight. At this moment, the fresh blood in its body continuously seeped into the surface of its scales, and then it began to burn. The amethyst-winged lion's expression was ferocious, and its huge mouth was wide open, revealing its sharp teeth that gleamed with a cold light. Not good, it's burning its blood essence. Yunyun's expression changed drastically. As the blood essence burned, the amethyst-winged lion's aura became weaker and more violent, and the surrounding air emitted crackling sounds. Amethyst seal! Amidst the lion's roar, the burning flames on the surface of the amethyst-winged lion's body and all the purple light in the sky rapidly compressed by its mouth. In the blink of an eye, a dark purple light pillar that was several times larger than the one used to deal with Yunyun was formed. It's definitely going to die. Let's avoid it first. There's no need to receive its seal. Feeling the energy waves in the dark purple light pillar, Yunyun's expression was extremely serious. However, Chubei at the side acted as if he did not hear her words, and was not moved at all. Let's die together! Chibaku Tensei! The amethyst-winged lion's roar and Chubei's indifferent voice sounded at the same time. The terrifying dark purple light pillar had just shot out from the amethyst-winged lion's huge mouth, but before it could shoot out 2 meters, it was as if it was suppressed by an invisible force, and suddenly stopped. Following that, a huge black ball of light enveloped the amethyst-winged lion. At the same time, the ground below seemed to have experienced an earthquake. It shook violently, and deep ravines split open. Yunyun was dumbfounded. Countless huge rocks that had split open rushed towards the black ball of light that enveloped the amethyst-winged lion. Rumble. Amidst the rumbling, in just a few seconds, a huge stone ball with a diameter of a few hundred meters was formed. Under Yunyun's indescribable shocked gaze, the huge stone ball fell and smashed heavily into the ravine. The amethyst-winged lion's aura completely disappeared. Is it dead? Yunyun muttered to herself. Her previous grace and elegance were gone, and at this moment, it was as if she had lost her soul. Chapter 24. Yunyun looked as if she had lost her soul as she stared at the gigantic stone ball that had sealed and killed the amethyst-winged lion. When she came back to her senses, she seemed to have thought of something. The wings on her back suddenly flapped, and her graceful body leaped into the air, then flew towards the east like lightning. Chubei saw through Yunyun's intentions and immediately followed. Soon, the two of them stopped in front of a huge mountain range. In front of them, a huge cave was faintly discernible under the cover of tree branches. It was the cave of the amethyst-winged lion. Yunyun glanced at Chubei, then turned into a green shadow and dived into the cave. The cave was not dark, and the walls were inlaid with purple crystals. It was extremely beautiful. This lion really knows how to choose a place. Chubei glanced at the naturally formed cave and let out a sigh. The deeper they went into the cave, the hotter the air became. After a while, Chubei and Yunyun flew to a particularly spacious area in the cave. On a 2-meter-tall square platform made of purple crystals, there was a purple ball the size of a soccer ball. It was also the source of the heat in the cave. Amethyst Lion Birth Essence! Yunyun's gaze was fixed on the purple ball, and her face was filled with joy. After the exclamation, Yunyun glanced at Chubei. After seeing the latter's extremely calm expression, She flashed to the side of the purple ball, grabbed it, and threw it into the storage ring. Roar! At this moment, a lion's roar sounded. Immediately after, a small amethyst-winged lion pounced at Yun from not far away, its eyes filled with hatred. A mere rank 3. Yun's face was filled with disdain. With a wave of her sword, several wind blades cut through the air and easily cut the small amethyst-winged lion into pieces. After killing the small amethyst-winged lion, Yun glanced at Chu Bei again. Seeing that Chu Bei still didn't say anything, he took out a diamond-shaped crystal and walked around with it between his fingers, as if he was looking for something. Not long after, Yun stopped in a corner. At the same time, the diamond-shaped crystal in her hand lit up with a purple light. Found it! Yun's face was filled with excitement as she punched out. Bang! The mountain wall exploded, and a fist-sized sharp purple spirit stone flew out. Above the spirit stone, light flowed, and it was beautiful. Yun grabbed the purple spirit crystal and looked at Chu Bei for the 4th time. Goodbye! Yun cupped her fists towards Chu Bei and flapped her battle-chi wings. Leaving just like that? Chu Bei looked at Yun playfully. I was the one who discovered the purple spirit crystal. Yun looked at Chu Bei with vigilance. What's more, I spent 5 class 5 magic cores and got nothing from you. You can leave if you want. You have to spin at least another 5 million fortune discs with me. Chu Bei looked at Yun indifferently and said calmly. Although he had already received 25,000 willpower through Yun, the upper limit of the reward for this transaction was 50,000 willpower. What if I don't? Yun held her sword and stared coldly at Chu Bei. This place is very remote and quiet. It seems like a good place to bury your bones. Chu Bei pointed at the surrounding cave walls with a smile on his face. You. Hearing Chu Bei's threatening words, Yun was so angry that she gritted her teeth. After a long time, forget it, I won't argue with you. I don't want this amethyst lion birth essence. Yun took out the purple ball from her storage ring. It won't work. Chu Bei shook his head. According to the system's judgment, the amethyst lion birth essence he found with her didn't have any willpower. Yun glared at Chu Bei fiercely and then took out 2 scrolls from her storage ring. One scroll is a high-level earth-fire attribute cultivation method, and the other is a mid-level earth rank fighting skill. Not enough. Chu Bei responded indifferently. Besides the purple spirit crystal and the amethyst lion birth essence, these are the only valuable things I have. Yun held the long sword in her hand tightly. Then don't blame me. Chu Bei shrugged and pretended to be cold. His Rinnegan began to emit a strange light. You really deserve to die. Meeting Chu Bei's chilling gaze, Yun bit her red lips and her waist trembled in anger. Carry her. Yun said coldly. Chu Bei did as he was told. Yun's beautiful face flushed red. Her slender fingers slowly unbuttoned her clothes and then took off the light blue metal inner armor that was flowing with a strange light. This is the heart of the sea armor, made from a strange metal produced in the stomach of the level 6 three-tailed blue whale. Its defensive power depends on the user's own strength. Yun put on her clothes and said in a cold voice. With this, it's enough. Chu Bei restrained his aura and the corners of his mouth rose again. Turned to the most expensive one. Yun was expressionless. She had already obtained the purple spirit crystal, so she wasn't too obsessed with the so-called black cloud crystal, not to mention that the probability of winning was very low. It was better to save some time and directly turn to the most expensive one. The customer is God. After saying that, Chu Bei moved his mind. The void trembled and rippled. A round disc with the words Level 8 Wheel of Fortune engraved on its top appeared, emitting a resplendent light. The system obtained 50,000 willpower. The host received 25,000 willpower. The whirlpool in the center of the disc swallowed the 2 scrolls and the heart of the sea armor. The system's voice sounded in Chu Bei's mind. In the next moment, the silver needle on the disc spun. Ding! A few seconds later, a square box flew out of the disc and floated in front of Yun. Yun Yun was especially calm and didn't have any expectations. Bang! The square box exploded. A black scroll appeared. I got a scroll! Looking at the black scroll in front of her, Yun Yun was stunned at first, then she immediately looked at Chu Bei with a face of disbelief. Chu Bei was also stunned. Before turning the disc, he and Yun Yun had the same thought: thank you for your patronage. After all, the higher the level of the box, the lower the probability of getting a treasure. Unexpectedly, Yun Yun got a treasure on her first try. She was simply a lucky woman. What kind of scroll is this? Yun Yun came back to her senses and couldn't wait to ask. Miss Yun Yun's luck is really not bad. Chu Bei pointed at the black scroll and said, This is the Chibaku Tensei scroll, a one-time consumable item. It can kill all experts below the 1-star Do zone level. Chibaku Tensei? What a familiar name. Yun Yun frowned. After muttering, she quickly reacted. It's the move you used to deal with the amethyst-winged lion. The huge stone ball with a diameter of 100 meters appeared in her mind. Yun Yun exclaimed. That's right, Chu Bei replied. Seeing Chu Bei nod, Yun Yun let out a long breath and suppressed the excitement in her heart. This time, she really earned a lot. After Yun Yun carefully took the scroll, she looked at Chu Bei and asked tentatively, Can I go now? Go ahead. Chu Bei smiled indifferently. If you need anything in the future, you can come to the All Heaven shop in Wutan City to find me. Wutan City, All Heaven shop. Yun Yun repeated, then flapped her battle energy wings and left. Chapter 25. After parting with Yun Yun, Chu Bei flew back to Wutan City. After the large transaction was completed, the weakened version of Rinnegan ability obtained through the system disappeared. Why is there no one here? When he returned to the celestial shop, he found that there was no one in the house. Chu Bei frowned. Then, he began to exchange willpower. After completing Yun Yun's large reward, Chu Bei currently has a total of 60,280 willpower. At the Dosher stage, every star required 5,000 willpower. At the moment, Chu Bei's cultivation was 3 stars of Dosher. He still chose to use all of his willpower to exchange for cultivation. The host has successfully converted his cultivation base. 60,000 willpower deducted, 2 stars of Dosher. After deducting 30,000 willpower, Chu Bei's cultivation reached 9 stars of Dosher. After deducting 45,000 willpower, the liquid droplet on Chu Bei's abdomen began to solidify, and finally turned into a thumb-sized green diamond-shaped crystal. Crystal, the symbol of a Dosher. After deducting 60,000 willpower, Chu Bei's cultivation reached 2 stars of Dosher. At the Dosher stage, every Dian required 15,000 willpower points for every star of cultivation. Feeling the feeling of incomparable strength in his body, Chu Bei nodded with satisfaction. Then, he walked to the door and clenched his fist. A rich green light covered the surface of his fist, and a sharp edge gradually appeared. With a punch, a powerful force fiercely smashed the green stone bricks. Bang! A loud sound rang out, and the stone bricks flew everywhere. Looking at Chu Bei's body, the Do-Chi cloak on the surface of his body also turned into a real armor. External release of Do-Chi and Do-Chi armor. This is the root cause of the disparity in strength between Dosher and Dosher. Boss Chu, you're finally back. Something happened to the little doctor. At this moment, Xiaoyan's anxious voice came from afar. Hearing this, Chu Bei frowned. Boss Chu, when I came to your shop this afternoon, I found little doctor unconscious on the ground. Since you weren't around, I brought her to my residence, but she hasn't woken up yet. Xiaoyan breathed heavily. What's even more frightening is that I was poisoned because of her. If it wasn't for the antidote last time, I'm afraid I would have died. Let's go and take a look. Chu Bei's face was solemn, as if he had guessed something. Xiao Manor. Chu Bei and Xiaoyan went directly to the room where the little doctor was. On the bed, the little doctor's eyes were tightly shut. Her originally rosy face was suffused with a strange rainbow color. Boss Chu, you're finally here. Xiao Zhan, who was standing guard at the side, hurriedly welcomed Chu Bei's arrival. As expected, it's acting up. Chu Bei came to the bedside and glanced at it. What's wrong with the little doctor? Is she poison? Xiao Yan immediately asked. Yes and no, Chu Bei replied. Xiao Yan and Xiao Zhan had a puzzled expression. Chu Bei took a step forward and used 2 fingers on one hand to pry open the little doctor's mouth, while the other hand moved the little doctor's head. Suddenly, a black liquid flowed out of the little doctor's mouth. What a poisonous medicine! Could it be that the little doctor is committing suicide? Looking at the corroded bedsheet, Xiao Yan cried out in alarm. This kind of poison, I'm afraid even a doge would die from it. She's only a 1-star doge, yet she's still alive. What a miracle! After determining the nature of the poison, Xiao Zhan's face was filled with astonishment and confusion. Normal doge would naturally die, but she's an exception. Moreover, she's not committing suicide. Chu Bei's voice was calm. On this continent, there's an extremely special physique known as the woeful poison body. What? The little doctor has the woeful poison body. Xiao Yan's face was filled with even more confusion, but when Xiao Zhan heard this term, his expression was already filled with shock. Father, what is this woeful poison body? Xiao Yan's head was filled with confusion. The reason why it's called the woeful poison body is because once such a physique appears, it represents the arrival of a disaster. A few years ago, there was a woman who possessed the woeful poison body on this continent. In a fit of rage, she turned an entire kingdom into a poisonous land, causing millions of deaths. How terrifying! Xiao Yan sucked in a breath of cold air, but quickly thought of another point and looked at Chu Bei. But what does this have to do with her eating poison? Unlike normal people's cultivation, the woeful poison body doesn't need to cultivate dou qi for a long time. If they want to increase their strength, they only need to continuously eat poison and use this special physique to form poison dou qi in their bodies. Chu Bei explained and continued. The stronger the poison, the faster their strength will increase. So it can be like this. Xiao Yan looked at the little doctor on the bed with a face full of shock. Although it's like this, poison is still poison. Even if she has the woeful poison body and her resistance to poison is far stronger than normal people, as she consumes more and more poison, there will be a day when she won't be able to suppress the poison dou qi in her body. At this point, Chu Bei shook his head and faintly sighed. At that time, her body will be devoured by 10,000 poisons and she will slowly die under the torment of pain. Boss Chu, is there a way to deal with this? After hearing Chu Bei's words, Xiao Yan shivered and looked at the little doctor with a gaze full of sympathy. Chu Bei smiled. His expression gave the answer. I'm very curious about one thing. How did she know that she has the woeful poison body? Xiao Zhan asked the question in his heart. There should be a record in there. Chu Bei pointed at a book next to the little doctor's head. The words, Broken Edition Compendium of Materia Medica, were especially eye-catching on the front page. Hearing this, Xiao Zhan waved his hand and sucked the Compendium of Materia Medica into his hand. He quickly flipped through it. Just as Boss Chu said, there really is a record. After saying this, Xiao Zhan threw the Compendium of Materia Medica to Xiao Yan. The woeful poison body can be cultivated by consuming poison. The obvious characteristic is that there is a small 7-colored hidden line in the lower abdomen. As the poison in the body grows, the 7-colored hidden line will spread. When it reaches the heart, the person will suffer the pain of being devoured by 10,000 poisons. Xiao Yan looked at the records in the Compendium of Materia Medica and his gaze returned to the little doctor. Boss Chu, what should we do to her now? Chu Bei shook his head. She just didn't control the concentration of the poison and is temporarily unconscious. She will wake up soon. Xiao Yan and Xiao Zhan relaxed. 15 minutes later. She's awake. Following the slight movement of the little doctor's hand, Xiao Yan cried out in surprise. Following this, the little doctor's tightly shut eyes slowly opened. Boss Xiao family head, young master Xiao Yu. The little doctor rubbed her head. Before she finished speaking, she seemed to have remembered what she had done before she fainted. She scratched her head and said with an apologetic expression, "I've implicated you. Miss Fairy Doctor, next time you must control the concentration of the poison. For safety's sake, it's best if you don't cultivate anymore." Xiao Yan hesitated for a moment before advising. "So you already know." The little doctor bit her lips and looked at Chu Bei. "Boss, I'll go back to the shop and pack up my things before leaving." "Why do you want to leave?" Chu Bei looked at the little doctor with interest. "I have the woeful poison body, aren't you afraid?" The little doctor avoided Chu Bei's gaze. "Don't mention that you're just a doja. Even if you become a poison dough emperor, I still won't be afraid." The corner of Chu Bei's mouth carried a smile. "Since you're awake, then come back with me." Hearing Chu Bei's words, the little doctor was surprised at first, but then she happily agreed. Chapter 26. You must be Boss Chu, right? Chu Bei and the little doctor had just returned to the All Heavens shop when a beautiful woman wearing a red dress walked in. Her voice was so charming that it made one's bones go numb. "You are?" Chu Bei sized up the graceful, mature woman who suddenly appeared in front of him, his eyes filled with curiosity. "My name is Yafei, the head auctioneer of the Primer Auction House." Yafei introduced herself, her every frown and smile filled with charm. "No wonder!" Chu Bei sized up Yafei's enchanting figure again and suddenly understood. "Boss Chu, you've heard of me?" Seeing Chu Bei's expression, Yafei was astonished. "Wutan City's famous beautiful auctioneer, Miss Yafei. Who doesn't know of you?" Chu Bei looked at Yafei with interest. "Boss Chu, you must be joking." Yafei twisted her waist. "Xiao Manor's third young master asked me to auction some spirit plants for him. The alchemists in my auction house have never seen these spirit plants before, so I asked young Master Xiao about them out of curiosity and learned that they came from you. Moreover, he also said that you have other treasures other than the spirit plants. I know the purpose of your trip. Today, I can only sell another 3 million gold coins." Chu Bei went straight to the point and explained the rules of the spinning wheel to Yafei. The limit of the gold coins he could sell every day was based on his cultivation in the morning. Today, other than Yun Yun's large transaction reward, his limit was 5 million gold coins. In the morning, Xiao Yan had spun 2 million gold coins, so he could sell another 3 million gold coins. "Boss Chu, then give me 3 sets of level 3 lucky wheels." After listening to the rules, Yafei took out 3 million gold coins from her storage ring, her face filled with anticipation. Chu Bei nodded slightly. Since the other party didn't ask for anything, he didn't deliberately choose the type of wheel. This type of wheel could spin out all kinds of level 3 goods. 1. The void trembled, and a level 3 lucky wheel appeared. The system gained 30,000 willpower. The host gained 15,000 willpower. 3 sets 30 times. The needle turned. Witnessing this scene, although Yafei was mentally prepared, she still couldn't help but reveal a shocked expression. As an auctioneer, she had come into contact with all kinds of strange guests, but it was the first time she had met someone who did business like this. Ding! The 30 boxes were lined up in front of Yafei. Then, a loud explosion rang out at the same time. 20 thanks for your patronage, 5 level 2 magic cores, 3 herbs, 1 sky blue spiral-shaped pill, and 1 exquisite wooden box that was 1 meter long. Boss Chu, please give us an introduction. Yafei's gaze swept over the series of products that had been opened. You should recognize the demon core. The 3 herbs can be used to refine tier 3 spirit pills. The sky blue finished pill is called the condensation pill. A 9 stars doja can enter the dosha realm after swallowing it. What? Directly become a dosha? Before Chu Bei could finish, he was interrupted by Yafei's exclamation. Will there be side effects? Of course not, Chu Bei replied. Then what about this? Yafei couldn't wait to open the 1 meter long wooden box. Inside was an item that was about 1 meter long, gray and black, with a round opening in the front that had never been seen before in the Do Chi continent. It's called the AK-47. After being strengthened, you can categorize it as a divine weapon. It can be fired 10 times and can kill any cultivator under the dosha realm. Chu Bei took out the AK-47 from the box and played with it. Although its power was strengthened by the system, its bullet capacity was greatly reduced. It can kill a dosha realm. Yafei's face was filled with disbelief. She let out a long breath and hurriedly said, "Boss Chu, can you demonstrate it?" Chu Bei nodded and walked out of the room with the AK-47. He aimed the muzzle at a 2-meter-tall mountain rock in the empty space to the west. Duh! The muzzle flashed. A bullet shot out, creating a ripple in the air, and in the blink of an eye, it hit the mountain rock. Bang! A loud sound rang out and the mountain rock exploded. So fast. Looking at the mountain rock that turned into several pieces, Yafei's pupils suddenly dilated. When she came back to her senses, excitement began to appear on her face. In a few breaths she had already thought of how to auction these two treasures. As long as the promotion was in place, whether it was the liquid condensation pill or the strengthened AK-47, she was confident that she could auction them for 3 million gold coins. Coupled with the 5 level 2 demon cores and the 3 herbs, she had made a huge profit this time. Boss Chu, thank you so much. Yafei carefully put the series of treasures into the storage ring. When she looked at Chu Bei again, it was as if she was looking at a treasure. I am a merchant, and you are my customer. It is my duty to introduce goods to you. Chu Bei lightly replied. Then I won't disturb the two of you anymore. Goodbye. Yafei looked at the little doctor behind Chu Bei and turned to leave. Side mission activated. Host completes the transaction of the Green Lotus Core Fire. During the mission, the system will determine that the host can use one level 8 item from the store. Due to the distance, the host can use the system's fixed-point teleportation array for free to go to the desert city. Mission completion reward 1. Additional upper limit of 150,000 willpower. 2. 1 chance to use a level 8 item at any time. Chu Bei was just about to exchange all the 30,000 willpower for cultivation when the system's voice sounded in his mind. Strange fire transaction? Isn't this stealing Xiaoyan's opportunity? Chu Bei's expression froze, and his brows furrowed slightly. However, when he thought of the mission completion reward, Chu Bei could not help but smile. That little bit of apology to Xiaoyan disappeared. During the mission, although he could use a level 8 item once, it could only be used to complete the mission. However, the chance to use a level 8 item in the mission completion reward could be used at any time without any restrictions. Compared to the previous large transaction reward, Chu Bei was not satisfied this time. Other than the Desert City teleportation array, there was no marked map. Fortunately, he had some understanding of the battle plot and was able to determine the location of the molten green lotus. Boss, what are you thinking about? At this time, the little doctor's voice sounded. Nothing. Chu Bei came back to his senses. Then, after a slight hesitation, he temporarily stopped exchanging the 30,000 willpower for cultivation, in case he needed to use it in other places. The next day, Chu Bei woke up. After stretching his body a little, he stepped into the system's teleportation array. He had to admit that the system's products were really good. In just a few breaths, everything around Chu Bei changed. The familiar house disappeared and was replaced by a vast sky and a boundless golden desert. Because the air was too hot, at a glance, it even gave people a distorted and blurry feeling. Directly below him was a huge city. Even if Chu Bei was 100 meters in the air, he could clearly see the 2 large light red words above the city gate. Desert City, the city bordering the eastern border of the Kama Empire, and the Tager Desert. Chapter 27. Chu Bei landed in the city. After asking around, he flew towards the west. This is the place. Looking at the simple shop with the words, Ancient Map, engraved on the signboard above the door, Chu Bei smiled. The shop was not spacious and was rather deserted. There was only an old man behind the counter who was carefully making a map with his head down. Although the old man had a head full of white hair, his withered hand that held the black pen was still firm and strong. The maps of the various regions of the Tager Desert are over there. Find what you need. The old man did not even raise his head, let alone look at Chubei. His old and calm voice echoed in the room. On the counter that the old man was pointing at, there were some yellowed maps casually piled up. Some of the maps even had traces of damage on them, as if they were defective products that had failed. Chubei smiled. He was not in a hurry to find the maps. Instead, he pulled a chair over and sat down. He sized up the old man with interest with a playful expression. The old man ignored Chubei and continued to draw the map in his hand. You're not here to buy maps? After the old man finished drawing the map in his hand, he finally raised his head slowly and glanced indifferently at Chubei. Although the old man's eyes were calm, the frightening scar on his left cheek added a hint of viciousness to him. Are you used to this place? Chubei's words carried a smile. His indifferent tone did not have the slightest ripple. What do you mean? The old man's expression changed slightly. Haipdan was once one of the 10 strongest in the Kama Empire. He was antisocial and arrogant. He was extremely proficient in ice-type Do-Chi. He once froze an entire city in a fit of anger. He was known as the Ice Emperor. Chubei leisurely poured a cup of tea for himself and continued. I once had a decisive battle with the previous Misty Cloud sect master on the summit of Misty Cloud Mountain. Although I was defeated in the end, the other party also won a Pyrrhic victory. Later, in the great experts competition organized by the Kama Empire and the Chuyun Empire, he fought a Do Huang and a Do Wang alone without losing. He stunned everyone. Ever since the meeting of the strong, you've come to the Tager Desert. After saying that, Chubei waved his right hand and all the messy maps on the counter flew into Chubei's hand. Chubei rummaged a little and pinched out a palm-sized remnant of the map. By chance, you snatched this map fragment, but because of it, you offended Queen Medusa of the Snake Clan in the desert. Chubei played with the map fragment in his hand. In that battle, you were defeated by her as expected. Although you were lucky enough to escape, you were also hit by her snake seal. Not only is his body rapidly aging, his strength has also greatly decreased, turning from a Do Huang to a Do Ling. All these years, you've been hiding here and studying the map fragments because you want to find a way to break the seal. However, the incomplete map is still an incomplete map. It is of no use to you. Chubei took 2 sips of tea, put down the teacup in his hand, and looked at the old man with interest. Bang! The old man slammed his palm on the counter. With an explosive sound, the counter shattered into pieces. Who are you? What are your intentions in coming here? The old man coldly stared at Chubei. Coldness lingered in his turbid eyes. After saying that, the old man waved his sleeve and the door that was originally open closed with a rumble. At the same time, an ice-cold and tyrannical aura spread out from his body, oppressing Chubei. Chubei was unmoved. He allowed the old man's aura to oppress him. His expression did not change and he was not affected at all. Due to the existence of the system, not to mention a mere Do Ling, even the pressure of a Do Di would not have any effect on him. Don't be nervous, I'm also a merchant. Chubei smiled. Merchant? Looking at Chubei, who was not affected at all by his aura, Hippodon's expression became more serious. Other than confusion, there was also some vigilance. Being hit by Medusa's snake seal curse, it doesn't feel good, right? Chubei calmly looked at the old man. You can undo the seal on my body? Haipdan stared at Chubei. As long as you can undo the seal, I, Haipdan, will owe you a favor. A favor from a Do Huang should have some weight, right? Don't bullshit me. Chubei stood up and straightened his clothes. I'm a merchant, I only recognize money. I don't need your so-called favor. Haipdan was stunned. For decades, no one dared to speak to him in such a tone. Coming back to his senses, Haipdan frowned. His white hair moved without wind, an icy cold Do-Chi surrounded his body. How much do you want? Chubei smiled and waved his sleeve. With a buzz, a golden disc appeared in the room, emitting a piercing light. At the top of the disc, the words, Level 6 Wheel of Fortune, were engraved. The thing that can undo your seal is called the reverse seal formation. As long as it's a seal under the Do zone level, it can undo it. Chubei stretched out his hand and pointed at the square boxes on the wheel. The reverse seal formation is in these boxes. The price for one spin is 800,000 gold coins. Of course, other treasures of the same value will also work. Really? Looking at the wheel that suddenly appeared, Hippodon's expression changed. He was shocked and suspicious at the same time. I don't cheat anyone. Chubei's expression was indifferent. What's the probability of getting it? Hippodon continued to ask. That will depend on your character. Chubei poured another cup of tea. If you're lucky, you can get it once. If you're unlucky, you might need 10, 20, or even 30 times. Give me 20 times. Hippodon was very forthright and directly took out 16 million gold coins from his storage ring. The system has received 160,000 willpower. The host has received 80,000 willpower. When the whirlpool in the center of the disc swallowed the 20 million gold coins, the system's voice sounded in Chubei's mind. Looking at the silver needle that started to spin on the disc, Chubei looked at Hippodon with surprise. This guy was much richer than he thought. Ding! Amidst the crisp sounds, 20 exquisite square boxes were placed in front of Baibodong one after another. Hippodon clenched his fists, and a look of anticipation appeared in his cloudy eyes. Bang! The 20 square boxes exploded at the same time. 19 of them had the same 4 words, "Thank you for your patronage." The last one was a green soft armor. This result made Hippodon a little disappointed. He didn't forget to point at the green soft armor and asked Chubei for an explanation. Green silver armor. It can change according to the size of the person wearing it. It can defend against all attacks below the level of a 3-star Do King, Chubei said concisely. Let me try. Hippodon tested the soft armor with a punch. Not bad. Looking at the undamaged soft armor, Hippodon nodded with satisfaction. His strength had dropped to the level of a Do Ling, so this soft armor still had some use for him. Give me 20 more! Hippodon took out another 16 million gold coins. Although the soft armor was good, it wasn't his goal. Based on the host's cultivation, the host has reached the limit of gold coins sold today. At this time, the system's voice sounded in Chubei's mind. Chapter 28. Today's sales have reached the upper limit. Let's stop here. Chubei looked at Hippodon apologetically. When you're free, come find me at the All Heaven shop in Wutan City. What do you mean? Are you messing with me? Hippodon's face immediately darkened. A murderous aura flashed in his eyes, and his hideous scar looked even more ferocious. I'm a merchant. Some rules were set by the ancestors and cannot be changed. Chubei replied indifferently. Since you know my identity, you must have some understanding of my temperament. Hippodon stared coldly at Chubei. If you don't hand over the so-called reverse seal today, don't even think about walking out of this door. Are you threatening me? Chubei frowned, his face turning cold. Hippodon snorted coldly and stomped his right foot on the ground. Suddenly, an icy aura spread rapidly with him as the center, filling the entire shop. The mist lingered, faintly obscuring one's vision. Condensing ice spike! Hippodon shouted, his hands flipping quickly to form a seal. In an instant, the cold mist in front of him churned rapidly, condensing into 3 transparent spiral-shaped ice spikes that were half a meter long. Whoosh! As Hippodon's right palm slapped towards Chubei, the 3 spiral-shaped ice spikes shot out with a whistling sound. Feeling the piercing coldness in front of him, Chubei did not dodge. Instead, his mind moved. A light wall as thin as a cicada's wing formed in front of Chubei. Bang! The 3 spiral-shaped ice spikes hit the light wall with a low muffled sound. Then, under Hippodon's gaze, the 3 spiral-shaped ice spikes all sank into the thin light wall as if they had entered a whirlpool. What's going on? Hippodon frowned. Just as he finished speaking, Ripples appeared on the strange wall of light. Then, 3 spiral-shaped ice spikes with an even more terrifying aura formed in the light wall. Hippodon's expression changed when he saw the icicles shooting out like lightning. He quickly flipped his hands again. The cold air around his body surged and gathered, forming an ice shield in front of him. Crack! However, in front of the 3 even more terrifying ice spikes, the ice shield was instantly shattered, unable to defend against them at all. Bang! Another muffled sound was heard. The 3 icicles hit Hippodon's chest hard. Poochie! Hippodon spat out a mouthful of blood. His body shot out like a cannonball and hit the wall. His face instantly turned pale. Don't mention that you are only a Do Ling now. Even if you were to return to being a Do Huang, I would still not place you in my eyes. Chu Bei walked up to Hippodon at a moderate pace and said, Since we've made a deal before, I won't argue with you this time. If you dare to try to rob me again, I don't mind finding a grave for you. As his cold voice faded, Chu Bei waved his sleeve and the light wall in front of him that was as thin as a cicada's wing disappeared. He had spent 10,000 willpower points to purchase the 3x reflection mirror. Under the Do Wang realm, all attacks will be returned 3x for a duration of 3 minutes. Hippodon stood up and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He only looked coldly at Chu Bei, not saying a word. As for this map fragment, it can't break your seal. Don't spend any more time studying it. Chu Bei picked up the map fragment on the table and threw it to Hippodon. He said, If you want to break the seal, remember to go to Wutan City. After saying that, Chu Bei flipped through a pile of messy maps. He picked the most detailed map and threw it into the celestial space. He didn't even pay and walked out of the house. Looking at the map fragment in his hand and then looking at Chu Bei's back, Hippodon seemed to want to ask something, but in the end, he stopped in his tracks. In the vast desert, the wind and sand were raging. Chu Bei flapped his wings and flew above the desert. Just as Chu Bei flew over a towering sand surface, he stopped. In the desert below, more than 10 mercenaries were holding weapons with their backs facing him, their faces serious. Around them, 8 strange-looking creatures were distributed in a circle, surrounding them. These creatures had human heads and human bodies, but their legs were huge snake tails. The snake tails made a hissing sound when they swung their tails, chilling people's hearts. Kill them all! Don't leave a single one alive! The leader of the Nagas glanced coldly at the mercenaries. His voice was hoarse and his face was filled with bloodlust. Hearing the leader's order, 2 Nagas immediately stepped forward. Their mouths were slightly open as they flicked their scarlet snake tongues. Everyone, stay alert! We have just sent out a signal. As long as we hold on for a while, the leader will arrive. Then we will be saved! Seeing the Naga's actions, a middle-aged man and the surrounded mercenaries spoke. Hearing this, the other mercenaries voiced their agreement, but their hands that were tightly holding their weapons were filled with sweat. Although they had the advantage in numbers, the strongest among them was only a 7-star doge, while the weakest of the enemy was an 8-star doge. They all understood this difference in strength. They would not be able to hold on until their leader arrived. Kill! The leader of the Nagas coldly snorted. The 2 Nagas that stepped forward immediately charged toward the mercenaries with ferocious faces. Prepare for battle! The leader of the mercenaries hurriedly yelled. Shio! However, just as the 2 Nagas were about to charge into the mercenaries, the sound of something breaking through the air sounded. Then, a figure suddenly appeared between the 2 serpent men and the mercenaries. Seeing the sudden appearance of the young man, the group of mercenaries was first shocked, but they quickly reacted with joy. Since the other party was also a human, and had appeared at this time, he must be here to help them. Kill them together! The leader of the Nagas glanced at Chu Bei with disdain. He did not ask anything and directly waved his hand. After receiving the order, the 2 8-star doge fiercely swung their tails and charged toward Chu Bei with ferocious expressions. Chu Bei's expression did not change. He clenched his fists, and his body flashed as he quickly passed by the 2 Nagas. Bang! In an instant, the 2 Nagas seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. Their bodies trembled as they flew back against the sand, spitting out blood from their mouths. Do! Release of Do Chi! He is a Dodo sure! How can this be? He is too young! Seeing the two Nagas that had been sent flying dozens of meters, the mercenaries' mouths were wide open. Their gazes were fixed on Chubei, and their faces were filled with shock. Under such a heavy blow, even if the two Nagas did not die, they would definitely be seriously injured and on the verge of death. Human, offending us Nagas in the Tagar Desert is not a wise choice. Seeing that the two subordinates were seriously injured by Chubei, the leader of the Nagas narrowed his triangular eyes and spoke with a cold voice. Chubei smiled and calmly looked at the leader of the Nagas. Scram! A single word sounded like rolling thunder. You will definitely regret this. Meeting Chubei's gaze, the leader of the Nagas coldly snorted. If he had not personally witnessed Chubei releasing his Do Chi, he would have already charged forward. Retreat! After speaking, the leader of the Nagas looked at the other Nagas and gave the order. Are you threatening me? Then you should stay here forever. Just as the leader of the Nagas led his subordinates to turn around, Chubei's mocking voice sounded. P.S. New book. I need recommendation tickets, dear friends. Please spread out the tickets in your hands. Love you all, super love. Chapter 29. Bang! As soon as Chubei finished his sentence, he had already flashed behind the nearest Naga and punched out. With a low thud, the Naga's pupils shrank. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood mixed with his crushed internal organs. At the same time, his body was like a cannonball, smashing violently at the feet of the leading Naga. Human, you deserve to die! The leading Naga's eyes were bloodshot as he glared at Chubei fiercely, wishing he could pull out his tendons and pull out his bones. However, Chubei did not care about the leading Naga at all. He clenched his fist and charged towards another Naga. Chubei's speed was extremely fast. Every time he changed his position, a Naga would fly out. In the blink of an eye, Chubei finished off the other serpent men and appeared in front of the leading serpent man. No, you can't kill me! Fear appeared on the leading Naga's face. At the same time, he swung his tail at Chubei fiercely. Chubei did not dodge and met the attack with a punch. Suddenly, a shrill scream came from the leading Naga's mouth. The tail that was hit was badly mutilated. Chubei punched out again. Under the fearful gaze of the leading Naga, he went straight for the latter's head. Hiss! Looking at the battlefield that had just ended, the group of mercenaries gasped and looked at each other, dumbfounded. Thank you, sir, for saving us. If it wasn't for you, I'm afraid our desert metal mercenary group would have all died in the hands of those Naga. The group of mercenaries reacted and went forward to surround Chubei. They cupped their fists one after another with gratitude on their faces. Desert metal mercenary group? Interesting. Chubei had a smile on his face. Sir, you know our mercenary group? Noticing Chubei's expression, the group of mercenaries were surprised. Xuelan, where are the Naga that attacked you? Are you all okay? Before Chubei could speak, an anxious voice came from the desert not far away. 7 eagles flew over. There were 2 to 3 people standing on each eagle. The leader is here! The group of mercenaries cheered. Soon Ingzio landed with a group of people. They were led by 2 young men who looked very similar and were dressed in mercenary uniforms. Captains, it was this lord who saved us just now. A middle-aged man among the mercenaries immediately narrated the entire process of how Chubei had killed the 8 snake men and saved them. Many thanks! Xiao Ding and Xiao Li bowed to Chubei at the same time. It's fate. I'm a businessman, and Xiao Zhan and Xiao Yen are my customers, Chubei said with a smile. Father, third brother? What a coincidence! Xiao Ding and Xiao Li were surprised. Sir, why have you come to the Tagar Desert? I'm here for a deal, Chubei said indifferently. If I'm not mistaken, this transaction should be with Medusa of the Naga tribe. What? Queen Medusa! Hearing Chubei's words, not only Xiao Ding and Xiao Li, but the other mercenaries also revealed shocked expressions. Sir, this Queen Medusa is not someone you can offend. Even the top 10 warriors of our Kama Empire can't find a match for her. Xiao Ding frowned. Besides, this Medusa hates humans. If you want to make a deal with her, the risk is not ordinary. With regards to Xiao Ding's reminder, Chu Bei did not mind at all. He only smiled and then walked towards a delicate and pretty girl behind Xiaoli. Seeing Chu Bei walk over, the pretty girl was slightly surprised and hurriedly bowed. Sir. The pretty girl's timid voice sounded. The girl was about 14 or 15 years old. She wore a light green elegant long dress. Her cute and delicate oval face was like a beautiful porcelain doll. Sensing that Chu Bei was approaching, the young girl lowered her head and revealed a timid expression. She was like a frightened little rabbit, making people feel a little pity for her. Qing Lin? Chu Bei called out tentatively. Hearing this, the girl was stunned at first, and then stuttered. Sir, how do you know my name? Chu Bei smiled and pointed at the girl's white and tender wrist that was exposed by her sleeve. There were some green snake scales there. Looking at the direction Chu Bei's finger pointed, the girl's cute little face instantly turned pale. She hurriedly pulled down her sleeve and took 2 steps back. Sir, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. The girl's small body kept trembling. Her timid voice had a hint of anxiousness. Sir, you must know that Rock Desert City is located in the Tager Desert. As a result, there would occasionally be human women and Nagas who would behave in an unreasonable manner. Under normal circumstances, humans and Nagas will not produce offspring. But nothing is absolute. There is always a small probability that some women will give birth to the next generation. Xiao Ding glanced at Qing Lin and shook his head. Even if these women give birth to offspring, their offspring usually have a hard time living past 2 years old. Although Qing Lin is an exception, this type of person, no matter if it's a human or a Naga, they all see it as a curse. So in these years, she has received countless supercilious looks and ridicule. The other mercenaries also seemed to know about Qing Lin's experience. Their eyes were filled with pity. Looking at Qing Lin's timid appearance, Chu Bei sighed in his heart. He slowly walked to Qing Lin's side. People living in this world don't need to care about other people's opinions. Moreover, these snake scales are very beautiful, aren't they? Chu Bei gently stroked Qing Lin's head with one hand. His other hand carefully lifted Qing Lin's sleeve and stroked the snake scales. Sir, do you really think they're beautiful? Qing Lin's voice was weak. She avoided Chu Bei's gaze. Ever since she was born, anyone who saw the snake scales on her wrist had treated her like a monster. No one had ever praised her snake scales. Your eyes are very beautiful too. Chu Bei stared at Qing Lin's watery eyes. Unlike ordinary people, Qing Lin's eyes were slightly green. In the depths of her pupils, 3 extremely small jade-green dots of light were faintly discernible. Thank you, sir. Hearing Chu Bei's praise once again, Qing Lin's face was filled with shyness other than a timid expression. As expected of the triple jade-green snake flower pupils. After staring at Qing Lin's eyes for a long time, Chu Bei let out a sigh. If the system's power had not intervened immediately, he might have lost his mind. She will follow me from now on. At this moment, Chu Bei looked at Xiao Ding and Xiao Li. Xiao Ding was stunned. Then, he asked for Qing Lin's opinion. Qing Lin timidly looked at Chu Bei. Then, she looked at Xiao Ding and Xiao Li. She gritted her teeth and said, I'm willing to follow and serve you, sir. That's good. Xiao Ding and Xiao Li let out a long breath. They smiled as if they were afraid that Qing Lin would not agree. I still have a deal to make. I'll take my leave first, Chu Bei said calmly. Sir, we're familiar with the Naga tribe. Why don't we give you a ride? Xiao Ding hesitated for a moment. Then, he said firmly, you're the benefactor of our desert metal mercenary group. If those Nagas want to harm you, we can also help. Thank you. Chu Bei did not refuse. He stepped onto an eagle. Chapter 30. In the distant sky, the sun hung high in the sky. The blazing sunlight scattered across the golden desert, roasting the tiny grains of sand until they were like red-hot iron. In the endless sky above the desert, a group of eagles was flying rapidly. "Boss Chu, we have already arrived at the depths of the Tager Desert." Xiao Ding licked his dry lips and tilted his head to look at Chu Bei. Chu Bei nodded slightly in response. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The eagles continued to fly, but just as they were passing by an oasis, numerous sonic booms sounded. Looking closely, they were green snakes that were half a meter long. They were spitting out their tongues as they swarmed towards the eagles. Screech! The 7 eagles sensed danger and immediately let out a terrified cry, frantically flapping their wings to avoid the green snake army. "Not good! Quickly land!" Xiao Ding and Xiao Li's expressions changed as they immediately gave the order. However, even though Xiao Ding's group had landed on the ground, the green snake army did not give up. They swooped down, covering the sky and earth. Fortunately, although there were many of these green snakes, they were very weak. 15 minutes later. "Leader, where did these snakes come from? Why did they suddenly attack us?" A mercenary pointed at the green snake corpses on the ground, his face filled with confusion. Compared to the hot air in the desert, this oasis was much cooler. "Everyone stay alert. There must be someone controlling these green snakes." Xiao Ding frowned, his expression very serious. "Human, congratulations on your guess." Just as Xiao Ding's voice fell, a mocking laugh came from not far away. Immediately after, with rustling sounds, 10 slim snake women appeared in front of Xiao Ding's group. These snake women had cold expressions, their hands tightly holding on to their weapons. Their sharp gazes swept over Chu Bei, Xiao Ding, and the others, revealing a murderous aura. Looking at the approaching 10 snake women, Xiao Ding and Xiao Li's expressions became increasingly ugly. Among the 10 snake women, 6 of them were dosher like them. As for the other 4, their auras far exceeded theirs. They were clearly dosher experts. "Boss Chu, the situation is not good." Xiao Ding pulled out the saber at his waist, the do-chi in his body surging. "Human, don't tell me you want to pass through my territory without even saying goodbye." At this moment, the 10 snake women took a few steps back to the sides. An especially enchanting snake woman walked to the front, her face filled with mockery as she looked at Xiao Ding's group. "Snake woman, you may!" Just as this enchanting snake woman appeared in front of everyone's eyes, Xiao Ding's face, Xiao Ding, and Xiao Li's faces suddenly paled, fear in their eyes. As a mercenary group that had been in the Tager Desert for many years, they were very familiar with the information of the Naga tribe. This was especially true for the important leaders of the Naga tribe. Although they had never seen them in person, they had seen portraits of them. Aside from Queen Medusa, the Naga tribe also had 8 leaders with extremely high statuses. You of you, moreover, we have absolutely no ill intentions for coming here this time around. We only wish to pay our respects to Queen Medusa." Xiao Ding took a step forward and bowed respectfully to Yu Mei. "If we have disturbed you, we will leave now." After saying that, Xiao Ding quickly gave Chu Bei a look, but the latter was indifferent. Seeing this, Xiao Ding could only take a step back and lower his voice. "Boss Chu, you may not know, but this Yu Mei is one of the 8 leaders of the Snake People tribe. She is also a Do Wang." "I know." Chu Bei replied indifferently. It had to be said that when he first saw Yu Mei, he thought of Primer Auction House's Yafei. The seductiveness of the two was too similar. "You want to meet the queen of my tribe with just a few of you?" Yu Mei's diamond-shaped beautiful eyes rippled with a smile. As she spoke, her tone suddenly changed. "You are really dreaming. Moreover, where do you think this place is? Do you think you can come and go as you please?" Yu Mei's face darkened. Accompanied by a cold snort, her red lips parted slightly. Suddenly, a mouthful of green poison split into several small poison arrows and shot towards Xiao Ding and the rest. Chu Bei took a step forward. Without waiting for Xiao Ding to make a move, he waved his sleeve. Chi-chi, several poison arrows were deflected by Chu Bei's do-chi and landed in a nearby bush. In the blink of an eye, they quickly withered into dry wood. You can actually release doqi at such a young age. Yumei stared at Chu Bei with a hint of surprise in her beautiful eyes. Forget it, I won't waste time with you. Yumei's voice was cold. Her expression became serious. Her slender fingers danced and a cold energy circled around her fingertips, causing waves of whistling sounds that made people tremble. Boss Chu, let's retreat. She is serious. If we don't leave now, I'm afraid we will really stay here forever. Sensing the terrifying doqi surging out of Yumei's body, Xiao Ding, Xiao Li and the rest became even more terrified. Some of the more timid mercenaries instinctively began to retreat. If those eagles were not frightened by the energy fluctuations released by Yumei, they would have already left. Don't be nervous. Chu Bei patted Xiao Ding's shoulder and was as calm as before. After that, with a thought, a red spiral fruit appeared in his palm. A weakened version of the magma fruit, a Logia ability fruit in the One Piece world. It was also a level 8 item that he chose during this mission. Boss Chu, this is? Looking at the magma fruit that suddenly appeared in Chu Bei's hand, Xiao Ding and Xiao Li couldn't help but ask. Even Qing Lin showed a curious expression. I'm thirsty, I'm just using it to quench my thirst. Chu Bei smiled perfunctorily, then swallowed his saliva and carefully put the magma fruit to his mouth. 1 bite, 2 bites, 3 bites. It was a little bitter, a little astringent, and a little nauseating. Is this the taste of the devil fruit? After swallowing it all, Chu Bei let out a long sigh in his heart. Finally, a knot in his heart was untied. Almost at the same time, he felt that the cells in his body seemed to have changed and were filled with a blazing fire energy. Xiao! At this moment, a cold force shot out from Yumei's fingertip. Wherever it passed, the air became slightly distorted and the sound of it breaking through the air made people's heart palpitate. Sir, be careful! Seeing that Chu Bei didn't dodge, Qing Lin subconsciously called out. Xiao Ding and Xiao Li's faces were also anxious. Not to mention a Dodosher, even a Do Ling would be seriously injured by Yumei's finger. Chu Bei smiled knowingly, as light as the wind. He calmly looked in front of him and flicked his finger. A wisp of red flame shot out from his finger and met the cold force shot out by Yumei. Chi La! At the moment of collision, the cold force shot out by Yumei quickly dissipated and turned into a thumb-sized snake. To be precise, it was a burned snake corpse. Chapter 31. Xiao! After the crimson-red flame destroyed the cold force, it continued to move forward and shot towards Yumei. Yumei was startled. After she reacted, she quickly dodged to the side and narrowly avoided the crimson-red flame. Boom! The crimson-red flame landed on the forest behind Yumei and caused a shocking explosion. In an instant, a huge crater with a diameter of several meters was formed at the location of the explosion. How is this possible? Yumei turned her head and glanced at the fire crater. Her face turned gray and was filled with disbelief. The group of snake women behind him also looked at Chu Bei in astonishment. It was as if they had been struck by a bolt from the blue, or as if a basin of cold water had been poured over them from head to toe. They were flabbergasted. He actually took a hit from a Do Wang. Xiao Ding and Xiao Li glanced at each other, then stood there motionless like wooden blocks. Their eyes stared blankly at Chu Bei's back as they muttered to themselves. The other members of the Desert Metal Mercenary Company were also at a loss. Their brains seemed to have lost the ability to think and were as fast as lightning. Sir is fine! That's great, that's really great! Qing Lin was the first to recover from her shock and shouted in joy. Big brother, do you think this Boss Chu is really the Dodosher we know? Xiao Li looked at Xiao Ding. Xiao Ding shook his head. We were wrong. A Dodosher definitely can't take that hit. You do have some ability. I underestimated you. Yumei coldly stared at Chu Bei. As her cold voice fell, her red lips parted and a strange sound wave came out of her mouth. As the sound wave spread, rustling sounds could be heard in the oasis. In a few breaths, the trees and branches around Chu Bei's group were covered with densely packed black poisonous snakes. The aura of these black poisonous snakes far surpassed the green snakes that appeared in the air earlier. Each of them opened their triangular eyes and stared coldly at Chubei's group. Hiss hiss, the black snakes swung their tails and flicked their tongues. It seemed that as long as Yumei gave the order, they would attack together. So she's the one controlling the snakes. Looking at the surrounding poisonous snakes, Xiao Ding, Xiao Li, and the others couldn't help but feel their scalps go numb. Although Chubei was powerful, facing such a dense group of snakes, it would be difficult to protect them with just a single attack. It was precisely because of this that the members of the Desert Metal Mercenaries were as tense as a rock, and their hearts were as heavy as lead. Kill! Yumei waved her hand. Her indifferent words were filled with the killing intent of cold in the forest. Upon receiving the order, the black venomous snakes on the surrounding branches rapidly flashed. The surface of their bodies was suffused with a deep luster. They opened their mouths to reveal sharp teeth that flashed with a cold light. They ruthlessly attacked Chubei and his group. Great fire breath! Chubei was still calm and collected, and his expression did not change at all. As his calm voice fell, his arms suddenly turned into huge lava fists, made of lava. In an instant, with him as the center, the temperature in the air suddenly rose. Immediately after, under the astonished gazes of several people, Chubei's huge fists that had turned into lava spewed out countless volcanic bombs, which swept out with blazing heat. The densely packed group of black snakes let out miserable shrieks the moment they got close to the volcano bombs. Following that, they were directly evaporated into nothingness by the high temperature. Not good! Yumei immediately flapped her battle-chi wings and soared into the sky. Boom! 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 Although Yumei successfully avoided the range of the volcano bombs, the other 10 snake girls were affected. Even though they had battle-chi armor and battle-chi cloak as defense, it was not worth mentioning in front of the terrifying volcano bombs. In the violent explosion of flames, there were those who died and those who were injured. So powerful! Witnessing this scene, the members of the Desert Metal Mercenaries, including Xiao Ding and Xiao Li, were even more dumbfounded. Human, you deserve to die! Looking at the snake girls in the sea of flames, whose faces were twisted in pain, Yumei viciously stared at Chubei, her eyes filled with killing intent. As the cold voice fell, Yumei clenched her silver teeth and suddenly stretched out her delicate hand. Instantly, 2 dark green energy streams condensed into a huge green snake in the center of her palm. The green snake's body was covered with hard scales. As its huge mouth opened and closed, its dense white fangs flashed with a cold light. What was shocking was that these 2 green energy snakes seemed to have life. 2 faint ferocious auras seeped out from their bodies. What a terrifying aura! Looking at the 2 huge green energy snakes swaying in the air, Xiao Ding, Xiao Li, and the others held their breaths and concentrated. Their gazes toward Chubei were filled with worry. Whoosh! The 2 green energy snakes broke through the air like lightning and arrived in front of Chubei in the blink of an eye. Their huge mouths filled with fangs viciously bit toward Chubei. Chubei was expressionless. Without any ripples, he directly punched out. Straightforward and neat. A glaring hot lava fire fist shot out from Chubei's fist. Boom! In the midst of the explosion, the lava fire fist easily swallowed the 2 green energy snakes and appeared in front of Yumei in an instant. Yumei's pupils suddenly shrank. There was no time to hesitate and no time to dodge. She could only use all her strength to activate her battle-chi armor. Kacha! The battle-chi armor shattered. Yumei suffered a heavy blow and spat out a mouthful of blood. Her face was pale. Her graceful body danced in the air and finally smashed into the sea of fire from before, creating an incomparably deep pit. I am a merchant. I only wanted to make a deal with Medusa. After passing through here, you wanted to take our lives without any explanation. Chubei walked to the edge of the deep pit and calmly looked at the heavily injured Yumei. Yumei endured the pain and flapped her battle-chi wings to fly out of the pit. Her gaze toward Chubei finally revealed a hint of fear. I will definitely take revenge. Yumei's beautiful face was cold. She stared at Chubei while her hands quickly formed a complicated seal. I indeed underestimated you. However, if you want to keep me here, I'm afraid it won't be that easy. Snake technique, split. Yumei's gaze was fixed on Chubei as if she wanted to engrave his appearance in her mind. As the cold shout fell, Yumei's body suddenly trembled, and then exploded under everyone's stunned gaze. There was no blood and flesh splattering as expected. Instead, there were countless green energy snakes that covered the sky and flew in all directions. What a strange snake technique! Among these energy snakes, I'm afraid only one of them is Yumei's true body. Xiao Ding and Xiaoli looked at each other. Their gazes swept across the scattered energy snakes, and they cried out in shock. Chubei's gaze locked onto one of the energy snakes. However, he did not make a move and only smiled. If he wanted to kill Yumei, his previous punch would not have heavily injured her. Instead, he would have directly turned her into nothingness. Let's continue on our way. Chubei looked at Xiao Ding and said indifferently. Boss Chu, you have heavily injured Yumei. She must have escaped back and told Queen Medusa about this. After seeing Chubei's methods, Xiao Ding became even more respectful. I'm afraid that your deal with Medusa will not succeed. No matter, it won't affect me. Chubei smiled knowingly and stepped onto an eagle. Chapter 32. Rock Desert City. A loud roar resounded through the sky and a huge green magic beast landed in front of the city wall. 4 silhouettes leaped down from the backs of the magic beasts and lightly landed on the scorching sand. Through the aura of the 4 people, the leader was a Do Wang and the other 3 were Do Lings. Elder, do you think this map is reliable? A Do Ling asked. The middle-aged man nodded and there was a thin piece of parchment in his hand. Looking at it carefully, there was a detailed map of the Tager Desert on the parchment. Other than accurately marking the desert oasis, the scattered snake people tribes were also clearly marked out. If there was a difference between this map and a normal map, it would be the east, west, north and south positions on the map. The middle-aged man was called Gu He, a Tier 6 alchemist from the Kama Empire and one of the elders of the Yunlan sect. His trip to Rock Desert City was to gather information about the Heavenly Flame. The 3 flames marked on the map represented the 3 places where the Heavenly Flame was most likely to appear. Elder, Ling Feng and the rest are here. Not far away, 2 figures quickly flew over from the desert. They were both Do Lings. Elder, we have new news! Soon, the 2 Do Lings arrived in front of Gu He. One of the Do Ling pointed at the parchment in Gu He's hand. Elder, I'm afraid we won't be able to use this map. What do you mean? Gu He was confused. A few days ago, there was a strange movement in this area. The Do Ling pointed at the flame mark on the east side of the map. I investigated and found out that there were people who saw a monstrous flame. It should be the movement caused by the Heavenly Flame. Just now, we caught a Do Ling from the Snake People tribe and found out what happened that day. Queen Medusa went there. What? You mean that the Heavenly Flame was taken by Queen Medusa of the Snake People tribe? Gu He frowned. Although this will save us a lot of time to search, it will also become more troublesome. Gu He's face became more serious. After a long while, he sighed. Looks like we need to go back and ask Lion King and Windrunner for help. Elder, Medusa is a Do Huang. With just the 2 of them, I'm afraid that it won't be enough. A Do Ling spoke. What if the sect master is included? Gu He narrowed his eyes and said, Wait for me here. I'll go and invite them over. After saying this, Gu He returned to the back of the huge magical beast, and left with a whistling sound. Meanwhile, the Naga tribe's stronghold. In a spacious and luxurious hall, a pale-faced Lamia was leaning against a bench in exhaustion. Her breathing was chaotic. Whoosh! At this time, a whistling sound came from outside the hall. Hearing this, a trace of joy appeared on Yumei's delicate face as she looked outside the hall. A black shadow shot in like a bolt of lightning. Mo Basie, you're finally here! Yume straightened her body from the bench. How did you get hurt? Who hurt you? When the black shadow sensed Yume's weak aura, his face instantly turned ugly. What happened? You actually issued a martial law and rushed us here. This was a strong Naga. His thin clothes were carelessly draped over his body. Both of his arms were painted with strange black tattoos. Especially those two ferocious snake heads, they looked like they would break out of his body at any time. They emitted a fierce aura. Emobasi, the leader of one of the 8 large tribes, was also a Do Wang. The humans invaded and I was seriously injured. Yume's eyes shrunk, filled with a thick hatred. Who is it? To be able to injure you like this? Emobasi frowned. His voice was filled with a coldness that was difficult to hide. How many people do they have? There are dozens of them. However, other than one person, the strongest of them is only a Do-shur. There is nothing to be afraid of. Yume clenched her fist tightly, her gaze cold. Is it a human Do Huang? Emobasi's expression was serious. I don't know. His aura is very strange. Do-chi fluctuation. I originally thought that he was just a Do-ling. Yume recalled the previous battle and frowned. He can create rolling magma and raging flames. That method is completely different from the human Do techniques I have encountered in the past. It is extremely strange. What is the purpose of his trip? Emobasi asked. He said that he is a merchant who came to make a deal with the queen. Yume replied. Make a deal? Emobasi's face was filled with doubt. Does the queen know about this? Yume nodded slightly. She is not seeing anyone now. That person asked us to deal with him ourselves. I am not a match for him alone. That is why I urgently called all of you back. The queen is not showing herself? This does not seem like her style of doing things. Emobasi frowned and guessed. A few days ago, on the day she left, there was an energy riot in the east of the desert. It should not be such a coincidence. Could it be that Her Majesty the Queen obtained some kind of treasure? Is she in seclusion? Yume turned around and looked at the depths of the hall. On the other side, Chu Bei, Xiao Ding and the rest stood on the eagle and continued to go deeper into the Tager Desert. Finally, a huge tribal fortress appeared at the end of their line of sight. On the huge city wall, which was tens of meters tall, were densely packed with tall arrow towers. The tips of the arrows were faintly purple and emitted a cold luster. Under the arrow towers, hundreds of fully armed snake people were patrolling with sharp spears in their hands. As expected of the headquarters of the Snake People tribe, Xiao Ding could not help but let out an emotional sigh as he watched the tight defense of the fortress in the distance. With this kind of defense, not to mention a Do-shur or Do-shur, even a Do-ling would be shot into a hornet's nest in an instant if they were not careful. Everyone on guard! There is an enemy invasion! Spear throwers, get ready! When Chu Bei and the rest were about 100 meters away from the fortress, a buzzing alarm sounded from the walls of the fortress. Immediately after, hundreds of Snake People guards quickly applied the poison on their spears. After which, they looked at Chu Bei and the rest with fierce expressions. They are really vigilant! Boss Chu, we are really not welcome here! Xiao Ding, Xiao Li, and the rest let out a bitter laugh when they met the hundreds of sharp gazes on the fortress. Shoot them all down! On the fortress, a graceful snake woman let out a cold shout. Her beautiful eyes were filled with anger. As soon as the snake woman's voice fell, all the fully armed snake people on the fortress shouted at the same time. Then, their bodies suddenly leaned forward and the spears in their hands that were stained with poison broke through the air. The sharp sound of the spears breaking through the air resounded through the sky. Chu Bei did not care at all as he looked at the poisonous spears that were shooting toward him from all directions. Just as the poisonous spears were about to pierce through them, lava gushed out from Chu Bei's body. It carried a monstrous flame and surged forward like a great river. In an instant, all the poisonous spears were submerged and merged with the lava with a sizzling sound. P.S. Dear readers of Qidian and QQ Reading, please move your fingers if you have a ticket. Thank you. Chapter 33. Naga Tribe's Stronghold. It must be him. In the spacious and luxurious hall, Yume heard the commotion outside the stronghold and immediately stood up from her chair. Beside her, Emobasi also sensed something and his face sank. Then, he looked at Yume and the two of them flew out of the hall at the same time and appeared in the sky far away. That is... Looking at the scarlet magma heat wave outside the city wall, Emobasi's pupils suddenly shrank and his eyes were filled with astonishment. In the magma heat wave, arrows and guns made of black iron that were stained with snake venom quickly melted and disappeared. That is one of his methods. He should have practiced some kind of fire attribute cultivation method. Yume pointed at Chubei, who was releasing magma heat wave from his body. Her beautiful eyes focused and her face was heavy. Come, let's go! After speaking, Emobasi and Yume flapped their battle energy wings and appeared above the city wall in an instant. Two chiefs, this guy, Snake Lady, who was commanding the battle on the city wall, immediately bowed when she saw Emobasi and Yume. However, before she could finish speaking, Yume waved her hand and interrupted her. Then, she stared straight ahead. We meet again. Chubei placed his hands behind his back and waved at Yume as a greeting. After speaking with a smile, the surrounding magma heat wave rushed back into Chubei's body like a surging river. Meeting Chubei's gaze and thinking of the injuries on her body, Yume coldly snorted. Human, why did you trespass into my tribe's territory without my tribe's permission? Emobasi coldly stared at Chubei. He flapped his battle energy wings and a tyrannical aura spread out. I came here to make a deal with Medusa. However, I was inexplicably attacked on the way here, so I punished her. After speaking, Chubei's gaze returned to Yume. Damn it! Hearing Chubei's words, Yume clenched her hands and her face became even more unsightly. His ferocious gaze seemed as if he could not wait to tear Chubei into pieces. Do you think you can meet our queen just because you want to? I advise you to leave as soon as possible. Emobasi rejected without hesitation. When the leaders of the other tribes arrive, I'm afraid you won't be able to leave even if you want to. What? Or are you trying to stop me? Chubei did not think much of Emobasi's threat. Why do you want to make a deal with me? Just as Emobasi was about to open his mouth again, the space in front of him suddenly distorted strangely. At the same time, a cold voice drifted through the air. Hearing this, Xiao Ding, Xiao Li and the others were slightly startled. Then, they looked at the distorted space with serious expressions. Ripples rose as a graceful figure slowly emerged from the distorted space. Finally, it was clearly revealed in front of countless pairs of eyes. Queen Medusa! Seeing the woman's appearance, Xiao Ding could not help but cry out. He had only seen the woman on top of the city wall in portraits. He had never thought that he would be able to see her in person one day. The woman who had suddenly appeared was wearing a graceful purple brocade robe. Under the brocade robe was a well-developed and exquisite body that emitted a faint charm. A head of fine black hair casually draped over her shoulders and fell to her slender waist. The most conspicuous part was the purple snake tail that was revealed. As the snake tail swayed, there was a wild charm that caused one to be inexplicably absent-minded. Indeed bewitching. Chubei sized up Medusa without concealing anything. His gaze finally stopped on Medusa's beautiful face and gave a heartfelt evaluation. Of course, Medusa gave Chubei a direct feeling. Other than being bewitching, there was also a sense of nobility and grace. Clearly, she had been in a high position for a long time. Your Majesty. After Medusa appeared, all the snake people on the city wall, including Emobasi and Yume, immediately knelt down and spoke respectfully. Speak, what deal do you want to make? Medusa looked calmly at Chubei. Her red lips parted slightly and the corners of her mouth formed a delicate arc. In an instant, her exquisite face was overflowing with a bewitching aura. Her frown and smile caused one to be absent-minded. I want the green lotus core fire. 8 indifferent syllables were spat out from Chubei's mouth. Green lotus core fire? When did Her Majesty obtain the heavenly flame? Could it be that the energy riot in the desert on the day Her Majesty left was the heavenly flame? Hearing Chu Bei's words, Baisi and Yumei looked at each other, and their faces were filled with shock. Clearly, they did not know that Medusa had obtained the green lotus core fire. What does Her Majesty want to do with the heavenly flame? Yumei's confused voice had just sounded when she seemed to have thought of something and said in shock. Could it be that Her Majesty wants to use the heavenly flame to break through? It must be so. Baisi nodded in response. But the success rate of using the heavenly flame to break through is less than 10%. If anything happens to Her Majesty, our entire Snake People tribe will be in danger. Yumei's expression changed slightly as she thought of those strong people from the human tribe who were eyeing them covetously outside the desert. Her Majesty has been stuck at the Dohuang level for many years. I'm afraid that she is a little impatient. Baisi glanced at Medusa and sighed faintly. As the tribe leader, she has a heavy responsibility on her shoulders. She wants to become stronger more than any of us. Once she breaks through to the Do Zone class, the strength of our Snake People tribe will swiftly expand and we will no longer be trapped in this vast desert. How do you know that I have obtained the green lotus core fire? Hearing Chu Bei mention the green lotus core fire, Medusa's expression suddenly changed. Her delicate finger gently touched the black hair in front of her forehead, and a chill lingered within her pale purple pretty eyes. At the same time, a dark and cold aura spread out from Medusa's body and instantly covered Chu Bei, Xiao Ding, Xiao Li and the others. Xiao Ding, Xiao Li and the others immediately shivered and hurriedly circulated the Do Qi in their bodies to resist the cold. Not only do I know that you have obtained the green lotus core fire, I also know that the current you is merely an energy body with some thoughts from your original body. As for your original body, it should be in that large hall preparing to evolve. Chu Bei's mouth carried a smile as he looked at Medusa with a playful expression. What? An energy body? Even the energy body's aura is so terrifying. How terrifying would the original body be? Xiao Ding and Xiao Li exchanged glances with each other before once again looking at Medusa, who was above the city wall. Their faces were filled with shock. Baisi and Yumei's expressions also changed. They did not expect that this was only an energy body of their queen. Rumble, suddenly Chu Bei's figure moved. Accompanied by a loud buzzing sound, he turned into a torrent of hot magma that surged and swept through the air. In an instant, the temperature above the city wall suddenly rose. The chill that had invaded the bodies of Xiao Ding, Xiao Li and the others naturally disappeared without a trace. Looking at the surging hot magma, Queen Medusa's pretty face suddenly sank. Chapter 34. Feeling the scorching heat, Medusa, who was on the city wall, was about to do something when the rolling lava suddenly condensed into Chu Bei's appearance and disappeared in an instant. In the next moment, a figure appeared behind Medusa. He extended his hand and placed it on Medusa's right shoulder. How dare you, human! Take your stinky hand away! Seeing this scene, Yumei and Baisi's faces suddenly sank. The energy wings on their back flapped, and they quickly pounced towards Chu Bei. I don't have time to bother with you. However, before Yumei and Baisi could reach Chu Bei, a ball of scorching lava surged out from Chu Bei's body and formed a four-sided prison, trapping Yumei and Baisi. Damn it! Yumei and Baisi continuously launched terrifying attacks at the lava prison. After a series of futile attacks, their faces were filled with anxiety. Am I right? Medusa. Chu Bei did not even look at Yumei and Baisi, who were trapped by the lava. His body leaned forward slightly and the hot air from his mouth spread to Medusa's delicate face. You do have some tricks up your sleeve. You saw through my energy clones so quickly. Feeling the warmth of the person behind her, Medusa's body stiffened slightly. As her cold voice fell, she turned around and looked straight at Chu Bei with narrowed eyes. Chu Bei smiled. He was a man who had the vision of God when it came to this battle plot. We will meet again very soon. As his smiling voice fell, Chubei clenched his fist and a gush of scorching lava surged out from all directions and heavily smashed onto Medusa's back. Boom! Accompanied by a loud sound, Medusa, who was on the city wall, turned into a faint purple mist and rose into the air before dissipating. Human, my snake people tribe will not let you off! Yumei and Mo Basi stared at Chubei with bloodshot eyes. Chubei still ignored Yumei and Mo Basi, and he turned to look at Xiao Ding, Xiao Li, and the others. With a wave of his hand, a hollow fireball made of magma enveloped them. Stay here and wait for me. After saying that, Chubei turned into a long rainbow and flew toward the depths of the Serpent Men tribe. Looking at the huge city in front of him, Chubei's eyes narrowed. Due to his familiarity with the script, he already knew that Medusa had divided the strange flame into 4 parts and placed them in the 4 corners of the city. He also knew the true location of the strange flame. Perhaps it was because he had consumed the magma fruit, but his sense of fire element energy had become incredibly sensitive. Even without knowing the scenario, he could locate the strange flame. After confirming the location of the molten green lotus flame once again, Chubei increased his flying speed. After flying past a huge palace, he hovered above a clear lake. In the middle of the lake, there was a small island surrounded by sparkling water. There was no bridge leading to the island. Walala! At this moment, the originally calm lake's surface suddenly exploded with water splashes. A huge snake with a triangular head and body covered in dark green scales rushed out from the bottom of the lake. It opened its ferocious huge mouth and bit at Chubei. Its diamond-shaped pupils were filled with a wild savagery. Chubei indifferently glanced at the giant snake that had rushed out from the lake below, and carelessly pointed his finger. Chi! A small snake made of magma shot out and instantly pierced through the huge snake's head. Then, with a mournful and painful cry, the giant snake fell back into the lake. Its huge eyes were filled with fear. Chubei followed the molten green lotus flame's aura to the small island in the middle of the lake. Soon, he found a circular open area. In the middle of the open area, there was a sunken pool filled with a crystal-clear liquid. White mist lingered on the surface of the pool. Even from afar, he could feel the extreme cold contained within. Icy spirit frozen spring, Chubei murmured. His gaze finally fixed on the center of the pool where there was a lotus seat carved out of a strange crystal. Looking at it, on the lotus seat, there was a green flame jumping up and down. Sometimes it condensed into the shape of a lotus, and sometimes it condensed into a small green flamed snake. The corner of Chubei's mouth slightly rose. The green flame on the lotus seat was the molten green lotus flame that was ranked 17th on the mystical flame list. At the same time, outside the Serpent Men tribe's fortress, a loud roar came from afar. A moment later, a huge dark green demon beast appeared on top of the fortress wall. Who are you people? Separated by the magma cage, Yumei shouted at the figure standing on the back of the huge demon beast. It was cold in the forest. I am Guhi. I have something to visit Queen Medusa of the Serpent Men tribe. On the back of the huge demon beast, 9 figures were clearly revealed in front of everyone. The one who spoke was a middle-aged man wearing a gray robe. Pilking Guhi! Hearing this thunderous name, Xiao Ding, Xiao Li, and the others seriously sized up the middle-aged man on the back of the demon beast. Their eyes were filled with shock. I think you are with that person. You are all here for the Queen's mystical flame. Yumei's cold gaze swept across Guhi and the others as she coldly snorted. Among these 9 people, she could sense that there were 5 Do Lings and 3 Do Wangs. Other than that, there was also a mysterious black-robed person whose cultivation she could not determine. Even in the Kama Empire, this lineup could be said to be terrifying. What? Someone else had already arrived before us. Their target is also the mystical flame. Hearing this, Guhi's expression changed drastically. He looked at the magma cage that trapped Yumei and Mo Basi. Could it be that he is the one who trapped you here? So you are not with him. Yumei coldly laughed. As for the background of that guy, you can ask them. Following the direction that Yu Mei's right hand pointed, Gu He's gaze landed on Xiao Ding, Xiao Li, and the others. Who are you? Without waiting for Gu He to open his mouth, a man behind him took the lead and questioned. Xiao Ding and Xiao Li exchanged glances but remained silent. I am asking you a question. The person who spoke saw that Xiao Ding and Xiao Li were indifferent, and immediately threw out a few wind blades. However, the wind blades that carried an ear-piercing sound of breaking air landed on the magma ball and were instantly annihilated. Humph, I was wondering who it was. So it is you, this stupid lion whose brain is filled with muscles. Mo Basie seemed to have recognized the man behind Gu He who had attacked and coldly laughed. I didn't expect you to still remember me. Yen Shi turned and looked at Mo Basie. If you had not escaped quickly back then, the leader of your ink snake tribe would have been changed. I wonder how much you have improved after so many years? You can come and try. A dark and cold glint flashed across Mo Basie's sharp eyes. Don't forget the purpose of our trip. Gu He glanced at Yen Shi. Let's go and find the mystical flame first. Mo Basie, what happened? You actually activated the emergency summoning order. Suddenly, a powerful shout came from afar. Soon after, a red shadow flew toward the city like lightning. Chapter 35. On top of the city wall, Gu He looked towards the direction of the sound and saw a figure that was covered in red dou qi. At first glance, he looked like a man on fire. That is the leader of the Flame Snake tribe, Yen Ci. This guy has a fiery temper and his strength is one of the best among the leaders of the 8 tribes. Yen Shi recognized the Snake Man at a glance. When the Kama Empire and the Snake Men tribe were at war, many of the Empire's experts died in his hands. On the other hand, Yu Mei and Mo Basie, who were trapped in the cage, were delighted when they saw Yen Ci. Damn humans, you dared to trespass into our territory! In a moment Yen Ci arrived on top of the city wall. After seeing Yu Mei and Mo Basie's situation, he frowned and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Just as Yen Ci shouted, another strong dou qi fluctuation came from different directions of the Snake Men tribe's fortress. Soon, another 5 strong snake men appeared on top of the city wall. They all had dou qi wings on their backs. Old Gu, the situation is not good. The leaders of the 8 tribes are all here. Yen Shi glanced at the 6 snake men that rushed over in a row and a serious expression appeared on his face. Mo Basie, what happened? Yen Ci looked at Mo Basie who was in the lava cage and asked again. This group of humans wants to harm Her Majesty the Queen. Before them, one of them had already gone to the central island. Mo Basie quickly summarized what had happened. Kill these humans! After hearing Mo Basie's words, the leaders of the 6 tribes who had rushed over clenched their fists. Veins bulged on their thick arms as they stared at Gu He and his group with bloodshot eyes. After the cold roar, the leaders of the 6 tribes moved at the same time. They released violent dou qi and attacked Gu He and his group from different directions. Prepare for battle! A deep roar sounded and the aura of Gu He and his group rose to the peak. On the other side, in the depths of the Snake Men tribe's fortress, on a central island. Splash! Ripples appeared on the surface of the ice spirit frozen spring, and a graceful figure leaped out of the water. The Medusa here was no different from the energy body that had appeared on the city wall before. She wore a purple brocade robe that wrapped around her exquisite body, and her long and narrow purple eyes were filled with a natural charm. If this king succeeds in evolving, you and those humans outside will all die. Medusa coldly glanced in Chu Bei's direction. As her indifferent voice faded, her beautiful eyes turned to stare at the green flames on the lotus platform. In the next moment, Medusa swung her snake tail, and her fair and slender hands quickly formed a seal. Buzz buzz! As Medusa's hands changed the seals, the lotus platform trembled violently, and the green flames on it seemed to have suddenly lost their restraints and rushed out. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a ball of raging green flames. At this time, the ice spirit frozen spring water in the pool began to evaporate at a speed visible to the naked eye. Medusa looked at Chubei again, and after letting out a roar that was similar to a lion's and a tiger's roar, her whole body emitted a dazzling light, and she turned into a giant purple snake that was more than 10 feet long. Chubei stood to the side without any response, as if he was watching a show. Above the ice spirit frozen spring, the giant purple snake circled a few times, and let out a clear cry, then swooped down toward the raging green flames. However, the moment the giant purple snake drilled into the green flames, a shrill scream resounded through the entire island, making people feel pity for it. Sizzle, sizzle! In the midst of the burning sound, the giant purple snake frantically rolled. As far as the eye could see, the snake's scales that covered the surface of the purple snake's body began to rapidly distort and become charred black, until they finally fell off the surface of the purple snake's body. After the snake's scales fell off, dark red blood gushed out of the snake's body. However, due to the terrifying temperature of the green flames, the blood that flowed out was burned into nothingness before it even dripped down. The giant purple snake's rolling movement became louder and louder, and its shrill scream became louder and louder. Outside the Serpentmen tribe's stronghold, no matter if it was Gu He, Yen Shi, or Yen Ci and the other tribe leaders, when they heard the commotion, they all stopped attacking at the same time. It can't be wrong, that's the aura of the strange flame. Gu He stared at the direction of the central island, and his gaze darkened. Is Her Majesty breaking through? We can't let anyone disturb her at this crucial moment. Yen Ci and the other tribe leaders looked at each other. Sect leader, if we delay any longer, I'm afraid that the strange flame will really be obtained by Medusa. Gu He looked at the mysterious black-robed man beside him, who had not made a move since the beginning, with pleading eyes. I know. The mysterious black-robed man let out a cold voice, and with a wave of his right hand, a green long sword appeared in his palm. The sword vibrated, and a sharp wind blade formed at the tip of the sword, and a terrifying aura rippled out. Do Huang! Sensing the aura released by the mysterious black-robed man, Yen Ci, Mo Basi and the other tribe leaders' faces suddenly changed. Get out of the way! The mysterious black-robed man held the green long sword, and the tip of the sword pointed at Yen Ci. So what if you are a Do Huang? We will definitely not let you disturb Her Majesty's evolution. After speaking, Yen Ci looked at the other tribe leaders beside him, and after communicating with their eyes, they formed a complicated seal at the same time. 5-snake poison seal! Along with Yen Ci's low roar, the light in the palms of the 5 tribe leaders, including him, suddenly became brighter. Following this, 5 green energy pillars, which were a few dozen feet in size, suddenly shot out from the palms of the 5 people. They intertwined in the air, and finally gathered into an extremely large energy pillar. As expected of the Serpentmen tribe's fusion Do technique, it is really amazing. Looking at the surging energy pillar that transformed into a green energy snake that was a few dozen feet long, and feeling the terrifying aura within it, the mysterious black-robed man let out a sigh. At the same time, the black-robed man waved the long sword in his hand, and his aura became as sharp as the tip of a sword, and a huge green wind began to quickly gather around his body. Sect leader, I will leave this place to you. I will go and find the heavenly flame. Gu He bowed to the mysterious black-robed man. However, just as he was about to move, the remaining tribe leaders blocked his path. Yen Shi, Fengli, I will leave him to you. Gu He pointed at the Serpentmen tribe leader in front of him. However, just as Gu He was about to move again, an unforeseen event occurred. The magma cage that trapped Mo Basi and Yume disappeared into thin air. Mo Basi and Yume were stunned at first, but when they recovered, they immediately blocked Gu He. Human, you will not be able to go anywhere. On the central island, Chu Bei looked at the huge purple snake's body in the raging fire, and shook his head with some pity. Immediately, his right arm turned crimson red, and began to magma. Dog bite red lotus. Chu Bei threw a punch toward the green flame. At the same time he shouted, his magma arm turned into the shape of a dog's head, and extended into the fire. Chapter 36. Boom! In the sky above the icy spirit-frozen spring, when Chu Bei's magma dog had entered the blazing green flames, it immediately caused an earth-shattering explosion. The originally blazing green flames, under such an attack, seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. After a series of sizzling sounds, the area covered by the flames rapidly shrank. The terrifying temperature also decreased by a level. In the end, it turned into a green flame less than half a meter long, tottering in the air. At this time, the huge purple snake's body was also shrinking at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the end, when it landed on the ground again, it turned back into Medusa's human form. However, compared to before, Medusa was incomparably miserable now. Her fair skin was covered with shocking blood stains. Medusa glanced at the extremely weak molten green lotus fire. When she looked at Chu Bei again, there was no gratitude in her eyes. Instead, her murderous intent became even more intense. "Human, you deserve to die!" Medusa gritted her teeth. Her eyes were filled with the color of blood. She could not wait to tear Chu Bei into pieces and grind his bones into dust. "Your body is of the cold attribute. Using the mystical flame to break through is not a wise choice. Look at your injuries. It really makes one's heart ache." Chu Bei stretched out his hand and pointed at Medusa's body, sighing. "So what? This is my choice." Medusa's words were filled with the coldness of the cold in the forest. "And I only needed to hold on for a little longer, and I would have succeeded. But at the most crucial moment, I was interrupted by you." At the end, Medusa was almost screaming, her murderous intent sharp. "As a kind-hearted person, I really can't bear to see you suffer like this." Chu Bei faintly sighed. Of course, he knew that Medusa was about to succeed. Otherwise, he would not have interrupted her. After all, once the evolution was successful, how was he going to carry on with the transaction mission? "If I don't take revenge for this, I am not worthy of being the queen of the Serpentine tribe." Medusa endured the injuries on her body and coldly stared at Chu Bei. Her doji fluctuated rapidly. "Don't be in such a hurry. I told you before that I'm here to make a deal with you." Chu Bei looked at Medusa with a smile on his face. At the same time, he waved his hand, indicating for her to restrain her aura. "You're using the strange flame to evolve. Coincidentally, I have a treasure here that can help you evolve without suffering any pain." Medusa's aura was still rising. "Why should I believe you?" Chu Bei crossed his arms in front of his chest, and there was a hint of mockery on his face. "In your current state, if you use the heavenly fire to evolve again, I'm afraid you'll only end up in ashes. Do you have any other choice but to trust me now? What do you want?" Medusa thought for a moment and asked coldly. "Green lotus core fire." Chu Bei stretched out his hand and pointed at the swaying green flame in the air. "Are you playing with me?" Medusa's face sank again. "Since you can severely injure it, and I'm seriously injured, it's easy for you to take it away with your strength." "No, no, no. I'm a businessman with professional integrity, not a robber." Chu Bei waved his hand and said seriously, "It's yours. Although I covet it, I have to obtain it through a proper transaction." Hearing Chu Bei's words, Medusa's mouth twitched slightly, but she had no words to refute. "The strange flame is there. I'm willing to use it as a transaction partner." Medusa pointed at the green lotus core fire and said, "What do you want to use as a transaction?" Chu Bei smiled knowingly, and then waved his sleeve, causing ripples to appear. A golden disc with a diameter of 1 meter appeared from the ripples, emitting a dazzling light. At the top of the disc the words, "Mission Roulette," were engraved. Compared to a normal roulette, this mission roulette didn't have a limit on the number of times it could be rotated until the transaction partner spun the target. Of course, because there was no limit on the number of times it could be rotated, the success rate of the roulette was quite high. "This is?" Looking at the sudden appearance of the roulette, Medusa's beautiful eyes blinked with confusion. Chu Bei wasn't in a hurry to answer Medusa's question. Instead, he looked at the green lotus core fire in the air. Buzz, the air trembled, and a black vortex suddenly appeared in the center of the disc. In the vortex, a strange black light rushed out like a river, sweeping toward the green lotus core fire. Sizzle! The green lotus core fire seemed to have sensed the danger, and in an instant, it turned into a raging fire, distorting the air. However, the moment the strange black light enveloped it, the raging fire was instantly suppressed. Then, it was forcefully dragged into the vortex in the center of the roulette by the black light, and without any resistance, it disappeared. Witnessing this scene, Medusa's bewitching pupils suddenly shrank, and her face was filled with disbelief. It was as if she couldn't believe that the strange fire that tortured her half to death was suppressed and subdued just like that. Where did it go? After a long time, Medusa came back to her senses and looked at Chubei in a daze. Chubei looked at Medusa indifferently, but didn't answer the other party's question. Instead, he said, "In this roulette, there is a treasure that can help you break through. Let's start." Compared to an ordinary roulette that would automatically spin after receiving money, this mission roulette required the trader to place their palm on the roulette, and it could only spin once. Medusa's right palm was placed on the roulette. The silver needle spun. Ding! Accompanied by a crisp sound, the pointer landed on a square box. Boom! With a loud explosion, the square box exploded. A cloud of colorful mist floated in front of Medusa. Medusa looked at the colorful mist in surprise, but couldn't figure out what it was. Her confused gaze fell on Chubei. Chubei pointed a finger, and the colorful mist quickly drilled into Medusa's forehead. "What did you do to this king?" Medusa shouted angrily, but the coldness in her eyes quickly disappeared, and her face was filled with joy. Seeing the change in Medusa's expression, Chubei's lips curled into a smile. This colorful mist was one of the skills of the hero Eastern Emperor Tai in Kings of Glory. It was called Fallen God Contract. In battle, once this skill was used, a blood shield would instantly appear on the user's body, and at the same time, it would create a contract link with the enemy that would last for a few seconds. During the contract link, if either party was injured, the other party would also be injured. When the colorful mist entered Medusa's forehead, it naturally transformed into the cultivation method of the Fallen God Contract. This should be one of the battle skills of some kind of cultivation method, right? Medusa calmed her excitement, and her expression was incomparably serious. Just this Fallen God Contract alone, as long as it was used appropriately, could have miraculous effects in battle. After all, compared to humans, beasts had a huge advantage in terms of resistance. Chubei nodded slightly. The Fallen God Contract is one of the battle skills of the Eastern Emperor Tai set. Eastern Emperor Tai? Medusa murmured. Was this battle skill created by him? Chapter 37. What about other related skills? Beside the icy spirit-frozen spring, Medusa looked at Chubei expectantly. Of course, they are still in these boxes. Chubei pointed at the exquisite square boxes on the turntable. How many more times can I spin? Medusa asked. Hard to say. It depends on your luck. Chubei continued. Medusa placed her palm on the turntable again. The needle spun. Ding! A crisp sound was heard, and the needle landed on a square box again. With a boom, the square box exploded. This time, an exquisite white jade bottle appeared, with white mist lingering above the mouth of the bottle. Host has successfully traded for the molten green lotus fire. Mission completed. Host has received 150,000 willpower. Additional reward, 1 use of a level 8 product. Almost at the same time, the system sounded in Chubei's mind. What is this? Medusa looked at Chubei. The moment his words left his mouth, a buzzing sound was heard, and the large wheel disappeared. The dragon transformation water is also a treasure that can help you evolve. Chubei's lips curled into a smile. The transaction is over, so the wheel has disappeared. Can it really help me evolve? Medusa narrowed her eyes and looked at the jade bottle seriously. With it, Even a dragon can become a real dragon, let alone a seven-colored sky-devouring python. Chu Bei replied calmly. Hearing this, Medusa took the jade bottle doubtfully. Looking at the liquid in the bottle that was similar to the icy spirit-frozen spring, Medusa hesitated for a moment. She drank it in one gulp. As the dragon transformation water entered her mouth, a burning sensation spread through her limbs and bones. Medusa frowned. But just as she was about to use her battle power to resist, the burning sensation turned into a cooling sensation. Every cell in her body was soothed, as if they were sublimated. Soon, Medusa felt the changes in her body. A terrifying energy was slowly flowing in her body, as if it was going to explode at any time. Outside the Naga tribe's fortress, the battle between Gu He and the leaders of the 8 major tribes became more and more intense. All kinds of tyrannical dochi intertwined with each other, forming a dazzling radiance that made sizzling sounds in the void. At this moment, a loud noise came from the depths of the fortress. In the next moment, whether it was Gu He and his group or the leaders of the 8 major tribes of the Naga tribe, they all stopped their attacks and looked in the direction of the central island. Her Majesty's evolution has begun! Emobasi's gaze focused. The clear sky above the central island suddenly darkened, and dark clouds began to appear. Rumble! Continuous sounds of thunder came from the dark clouds. Silver lightning danced wildly like silver snakes. Damn it! Sensing the violent energy contained in the dark clouds, Gu He's expression became extremely ugly. Under countless gazes, below the silver lightning, a purple pillar of light suddenly shot up into the sky. It was also at this moment that heaven and earth lit up as several bolts of silver lightning intertwined into one and shot down from the clouds before disappearing into the purple pillar of light. Why did the heavenly flames aura disappear? Strange! Gu He stared in the direction of the central island. His frown deepened, and there was a hint of confusion in his eyes. Boom! Another earth-shattering sound rang out. In an instant, a vast and terrifying aura was released from the purple pillar of light. At a terrifying speed, it quickly enveloped the entire fortress of the Naga tribe. Immediately after, a huge creature that was dozens of feet long rose into the sky from the central island. It was a huge python that was covered with 7-colored scales. Its light purple snake eyes were bewitching. Even though it was still far away, one could still feel the terrifying aura that it released. Her Majesty has successfully evolved. That's great! Emobasi, Yume, and the other leaders of the Naga tribe looked at each other. Immediately, their faces were filled with joy as their cheers resounded through the clouds. On the other hand, when Gu He, Yanshi, and the others saw the 7-colored heaven-devouring python above the central island, their faces became extremely gloomy. They subconsciously gathered around the black-robed man. Sect leader, we should withdraw. Gu He's face was filled with unwillingness as he looked at the 7-colored heaven-devouring python before speaking to the black-robed man. I'm afraid that it won't be so easy to withdraw. The black-robed man shook his head. His eyes were filled with seriousness. Just as the black-robed man's sigh sounded, the 7-colored heaven-devouring python turned into a 7-colored light figure that shot out from the purple pillar of light. Its speed was as fast as lightning, almost penetrating through space. Why? Do you want to leave now? How can this king's territory be a place where you humans can come and go as you please? Almost at the same time, an icy voice that contained a chill drifted through the air. A figure appeared in front of Emobasi, Yume, and the other leaders of the Naga tribe. At this moment, Medusa's snake tail was nowhere to be seen. She had completely transformed into a human form. A purple robe dragged along, wrapping around her voluptuous and exquisite body. A dark and cold aura spread out from her body and covered Gu He and the others. Dozong! Feeling the bone-piercing chill that seemed to cover their bodies, Gu He and Yanshi shivered. Their faces were filled with caution. Sect leader, what should we do now? Gu He avoided Medusa's cold in the forest gaze and looked at the black-robed man beside him as he asked. I'm afraid that we will really die here. Helplessness appeared on Yanshi's and Windrunner's faces. Their eyes carried some regret. Forget about the current Medusa. Even if it was the Medusa who had not evolved before, it would have been impossible for them to safely escape. Other than fighting, is there any other way? The black-robed man's gaze swept over Gu He and replied indifferently. Sect leader, this time around, I have harmed all of you. Gu He glanced at the black-robed man and let out a long sigh. Although the black-robed man was already a 3-star Do Huang, he did not have the ability to retaliate in front of the current Medusa. Your Majesty, what about that person from before? Was he killed by you? Yu Mei seemed to have thought of something and immediately opened her mouth to ask. Hearing Yu Mei's words, Xiao Ding, Xiao Li and the others who were surrounded by the magma fireball immediately turned their gazes toward Medusa. Their expressions were a little nervous. Don't worry about me, I'm fine. However, just as Medusa was about to reply to Yu Mei, a voice that carried a smile sounded in everyone's ears. Rolling magma lay horizontally in the sky and finally transformed into a human figure. It's you! When they saw the appearance of the figure clearly, the black-robed man was the one whose expression changed the most among everyone present. Sect leader, you know him? Who is he? Sensing the fluctuation of the black-robed man's aura, Gu He immediately asked. We've met once. The black-robed man's gaze was firmly locked onto Chu Bei. Sect leader Yun, we meet again. What a coincidence. Chu Bei extended his hand and waved toward the black-robed man. As expected, you are in cahoots with them. Seeing Chu Bei greet the black-robed man, Yu Mei scolded. Boss Chu, why are you here? The black-robed man took off his black veil bamboo hat, revealing his face. It was Yun Yun who had made a deal with Chu Bei in the Magic Beast mountain range. Chapter 38. So you are the sect leader of the Yunlan sect. No wonder you have the guts to come to my territory. Medusa narrowed her eyes and locked onto Yun Yun. She sneered. But after today, the Yunlan sect will have to choose a new sect leader. Snake seal. Medusa opened her right hand and faced Yun Yun, Gu He, and the others. Purple snake-shaped patterns intertwined on her palm. Buzz, buzz. Accompanied by a strange buzzing sound, Medusa's palm glowed with purple light. It rushed toward Yun Yun and the others like a surging river. The flow of battle energy in my body has slowed down. Looking at the approaching purple light, Gu He, Yanshi, and the others' faces changed. They tried to flap their battle energy wings, but they found that the speed of battle energy in their body seemed to be blocked. They couldn't move it for a while. It's too late. Damn it! We are going to die in this desert. Yanshi and Gu He were disheartened. Chibaku Tensei! However, just as the purple light was about to engulf Yun Yun, Gu He, and the others, Yun Yun waved her sleeve and a black scroll flew out. As Yun Yun's cold voice sounded, the black scroll released black ripples, instantly blocking the purple light that swept over. Then, a huge black ball of light shot out from the scroll and quickly wrapped around Medusa. Rumble! Almost at the same time, the city walls below shook violently as if there was an earthquake. Deep gullies appeared. What did she do? Yu Mei, Mo Basi, and the other leaders of the Serpent Men tribe looked at each other, dumbfounded. Sand and gravel rose from below and rushed toward the black ball of light that wrapped around Medusa. In a few seconds, a huge sand ball with a diameter of 100 meters was formed. Retreat! Looking at the sand ball that was formed, Yun Yun immediately gave the order. Then, she turned around and flew away. Gu He, Yanshi, and the others were stunned at first. When they felt the snake seal in their body disappear, they immediately flapped their wings and left. Humans, don't even think about leaving! Stop chasing! Let's save Her Majesty first! Just as Mo Basi and the other leaders were about to give chase, Yu Mei let out a clear and cold voice. Then, she circulated all the energy within her body and struck the sand ball in an attempt to break it open. After a few seconds, the originally motionless giant sand ball suddenly began to vibrate from the inside out. Boom! With a loud explosion, the sand ball exploded, and a beautiful figure flew out. However, compared to before, Medusa, who had just escaped from the sand ball, was clearly much weaker, and her face had also become a little pale. "Your Majesty, are you all right?" Yume, Emobasi, and the other leaders hurriedly went forward to ask, their eyes filled with worry. Medusa waved her hand and then looked in the direction where Yun and the others left. Was such a background, as expected of the Yunlan sect leader? "Your Majesty, are we going to charge towards the Yunlan sect?" Emobasi's eyes were cold and filled with killing intent. The previous sect leader of the Yunlan sect must have broken through to the Do Zone class. In addition, I have suffered some injuries. Let's put this enmity aside for the time being. Medusa shook her head. How should we deal with him? Yume pointed at Wu Fang, her aura rising to the limit. The deal has been completed. Of course, I have to leave. After all, you won't keep me as a guest. Chu Bei let out a laugh. With a wave of his sleeve, the magma fireball that wrapped around Xiao Ding, Xiao Li, and the others disappeared. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. However, at this moment, numerous sounds of breaking air sounded. Emobasi, Yen Ci, and the other leaders of the tribe surrounded Chu Bei. Are you going to fight? Chu Bei crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at Emobasi with a playful gaze. Stand down. Without waiting for Emobasi to speak, Medusa's cold voice sounded. Hearing this, Emobasi and the others glanced at Medusa. Then they flew back to their original positions unwillingly. Chu Bei smiled and landed beside Xiao Ding. Let's go. We can go back now. After his calm voice sounded, Chu Bei took the lead and stepped onto an eagle. Xiao Ding and Xiao Li looked at Medusa and the other snake people warriors. When they saw that the other party had really allowed them to leave, they looked at Chu Bei, who was already on the eagle's back. Their faces were filled with shock and admiration. Your Majesty, why did you let him go? He injured Medusa. Looking at the 7 eagles flying away, Emobasi looked at Medusa in confusion. Do you think that I evolved through the heavenly flame? After Medusa finished explaining everything that happened on the central island, she faintly sighed. Even if I wasn't injured, I'm afraid that I wouldn't be able to keep him here. This person is actually so mysterious. After hearing Medusa's words, the leaders of the tribes looked at each other. Outside the Tiger Desert. Those snake people didn't chase after us. Yanshi looked back again and let out a long sigh. Gu He's flying speed also gradually slowed down. His gaze landed on Yun. Sect leader, what scroll did you use just now? It can even seal Medusa after she broke through. Did the old sect leader give it to you? Yun glanced at Gu He and shook her head. I got it from that mysterious person. What? It's him. Gu He, Yanshi, and the rest looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with shock. What exactly is his background? He actually has this kind of scroll. I only know that he is a merchant. He has all kinds of treasures that I have never heard of before. Moreover, his trading methods are extremely unusual. Yun's beautiful eyes focused. As for his cultivation, he is not weaker than a Do Zone. At this point, Yun seemed to have thought of something and said, when Medusa was evolving, did you not sense the aura of the heavenly flame? If my guess is correct, she did not evolve through the heavenly flame at all. Then where is the heavenly flame? Gu He was shocked. His expression changed. Could it be that the mysterious person got it? No wonder Medusa did not attack him. They must have made some kind of deal. Yanshi and Feng Li seemed to have understood something. Let's go back to the sect first. When I have time, I will pay this boss Chu a visit. As soon as she finished speaking, Yun accelerated again and flew in the direction of the Yunlan sect. Desert City. Boss Chu, are you going back now? We haven't properly entertained you yet. Xiao Ding and Xiao Li looked at Chu Bei respectfully. Do you want to go back to Wutan City with me? Chu Bei asked. Indeed, we should go back and take a look. Xiao Ding and Xiao Li looked at each other. After we settle the matters of the mercenary group, we will return to Wutan City. Then Xiao Ding looked at Qing Lin. Since you have decided to follow Boss Chu, you must serve him well. I will. Qing Lin nodded. Let's go. Chu Bei looked at Qing Lin. With a wave of his sleeve, a bright golden formation appeared under his feet. A blinding light bloomed and Chu Bei and Qing Lin disappeared. When the two reappeared, they had already returned to the celestial shop. Chapter 39. Sir, is this your residence? Qing Lin looked around and couldn't help but ask. Boss, you're back. At this time, footsteps came from the second floor. The little doctor heard the commotion and walked down. When she saw Qing Lin, a hint of curiosity appeared on the little doctor's face. Boss, this is... Her name is Qing Lin. She's my new maid. Chu Bei introduced. Boss, her wrist. The little doctor had just reached out her hand to greet Qing Lin when she noticed the green snake scales on the latter's wrist. I'm sorry for scaring you. Sensing the little doctor's gaze, Qing Lin's expression changed. She immediately pulled down her sleeves. She's a bit special. Chu Bei explained Qing Lin's background and experience. After hearing Chu Bei's explanation, the little doctor looked at Qing Lin again with pity. She said, We don't have to care about the eyes of the world. From now on, we'll be best friends. We? Qing Lin was confused. If people knew about my constitution, I'm afraid they'd hate me even more than you. The little doctor shook her head and told Qing Lin about the woeful poison body. You two can continue to talk about your feelings. Chu Bei looked at the little doctor and Qing Lin, who suddenly became sympathetic towards each other, and walked into the inner room. From the Ice Emperor Hypdon, Chu Bei obtained 80,000 willpower. In addition, he obtained an additional 150,000 willpower from completing the mysterious flame transaction. Currently, Chu Bei had a total of 270,280 willpower. Chu Bei's current cultivation was 2 stars of Didosher. In this realm, it would take 15,000 willpower to convert 1 star of cultivation. Above the Didosher was the Do-Ling realm. To convert 1 star of cultivation, one would need 50,000 willpower points. The host has successfully converted his cultivation base. 255,000 willpower deducted, Battle Spirit 3 stars. After deducting 105,000 willpower, Chu Bei's cultivation had reached 9 stars of Didosher. After deducting 155,000 willpower points, the rhombus-shaped crystal in Chu Bei's abdomen suddenly trembled. Then, it released a bright light, and the water chestnut around it quickly became round. However, it didn't take long for the round crystal to transform again. 9 spikes were formed, and it looked more like a sea urchin covered in spikes. The change from the rhombus dough crystal to the sea urchin dough crystal also signified the evolution of a Didosher to a Do-Ling. After deducting 255,000 willpower points, Chu Bei's cultivation rose to 3-star battle spirit. Chu Bei nodded in satisfaction when he sensed the changes in the energy in his body. The host's cultivation has broken through to the Do-Ling realm. The host is rewarded with 1 auction right. In this auction, the system will randomly select 1 level 8 item, 2 level 7 items, and 3 level 6 items for the host. After 3 days, the system will release the auction items. The auction time is 1 day. The willpower obtained from the auction can be used to repay 1/5 of the host. During the auction process, if there are any changes, the host can unconditionally select 1 level 8 item to use. At this moment, the system's voice sounded in Chu Bei's mind again. Chu Bei was stunned at first. When he came back to his senses, he smiled like a flower. Although the activation of the system made him wait for 100 years, the rewards now made him feel that the 100 years of waiting were worth it. How could he maximize the profits of the auction? Chu Bei thought of the Primer Auction House. He immediately set off. Primer Auction House. Boss Chu, why are you here? Seeing Chu Bei's arrival, Yafei hurriedly welcomed him with incomparable enthusiasm. Her red dress wrapped around her swaying waist, revealing a sense of charm. You didn't lose out on the goods you got from me, did you? Chubei said with a smile. Of course not. Yafei brought Chubei to a magnificent spacious room. The demon core and spirit plant were all sold at a very good price. Especially the enhanced version of the AK-47, it was sold at a high price of 5 million. Who is the owner? Chubei's eyes showed some curiosity. According to what he knew, even if it was a Shao family wanting to take out 5 million at once, it was not an easy thing to do. The owner just happened to pass by Wutan City. Yafei poured a cup of tea for Chubei and continued. He is the great elder of the Mo family. His name is Mo Qing. Perhaps Boss Chu has not heard of this Mo family, but this Mo family is still very prestigious in the northeast of the Jiama Empire. It is one of the 4 great families. Although their power can't be compared to our Primer family, they still can't be underestimated because behind this Mo family, there is the huge Yunlan sect as their backing. Yafei's lips moved slightly. The reason why this Mo family is related to the Yunlan sect is all thanks to Mo Qing. This Mo Qing once entered the Yunlan sect when he was young. Although he later left, every year he would hand over an extremely large amount of offerings to the Yunlan sect. Since it is this guy, then taking out 5 million isn't anything strange. Chubei drank a mouthful of tea. You actually know this person? Yafei's face was filled with astonishment. I have heard of him. Chubei replied indifferently. Regarding the people in this battle-break world, whether they were important or not, he more or less had some impression of them. Boss Chu, I still don't know why you came to my auction house this time. Could it be that you have treasures that you want us to auction on your behalf? Yafei went straight to the point, her beautiful eyes filled with anticipation. 3 days later, I will bring 6 items. As for what these items are, I will keep it a secret for now. Chubei put down the tea in his hand and looked at Yafei with a serious expression. But what is certain is that among these 6 items, even the lowest value is extremely tempting to a Do Wang. The most valuable item is a treasure that even a Do Zong would fight over. What? Do Zong? Hearing Chubei's words, Yafei's face changed dramatically, her face filled with astonishment. But in this small Wutan city, not to mention a Do Wang, even a Do Ling is extremely rare. As for a Do Zong, there are very few of them in the entire Jiama Empire. Yafei quickly thought of the most important point of this auction. So I hope that you can use these 3 days to properly advertise this auction through your family, Chubei said with a smile. Hearing this, Yafei fell into deep thought. Boss Chu, can you really take out treasures that even a Do Zong would fight over? After a long time, Yafei looked at Chubei with an incomparably serious expression and confirmed once again. What? You don't trust me? Chubei smiled knowingly and asked back. Boss Chu, you can rest assured and leave the promotion to me. I guarantee that I won't let you down. Yafei once again poured Chubei a cup of tea, her beautiful eyes filled with hope. To her, this auction might be a turning point for her. It could completely change her position in the family. She must give it her all. If you do well in this auction, I will give you more valuable treasures in the future. Chubei stood up and smiled. I guarantee that I won't let you down. Yafei's face was filled with joy. Chapter 40. The next day. Boss, don't sleep. Qing Lin, she was taken away. Chubei was still sleeping soundly when he was awakened by the little doctor's anxious cries. What happened? Chubei was awakened and hurriedly asked. Just now, Qing Lin and I went to buy groceries. On the way back, we met a group of men in black. One of the men in black seemed to have noticed something when he saw Qing Lin's eyes. Ignoring our struggles, he took Qing Lin away. The little doctor's eyes were filled with tears and her voice was sobbing. Do you know who took Qing Lin away? Chubei's face became gloomy. I don't know. After they knocked me to the ground, they took Qing Lin away. The little doctor bit her lips and remorse appeared on her face. I couldn't catch up with them, so I ran back immediately. Boss, you must save Qing Lin. I shouldn't have taken her out. Is the target Qing Lin? Chu Bei narrowed his eyes and seemed to have thought of something. His gaze focused and he said, I'm going out for a while. Primer Auction House. Boss Chu, why are you here so early in the morning? I've already started to prepare for the auction that you asked me to hold. After I'm done here, I'll go back to the family. Ye Fei thought that Chu Bei had come for the auction and immediately summarized the preparations and plans that she had made. Where is the Mo family's residence? Chu Bei's voice was cold. Ye Fei's expression froze. After a while, she recovered and asked tentatively, Boss Chu, why are you asking this? Time is tight. If you know, tell me immediately. Chu Bei looked at Ye Fei calmly. At the end of Changxing Street in the eastern suburbs, the first mansion is their temporary residence. Meeting Chu Bei's gaze, Ye Fei did not ask any more questions and immediately responded. Thank you. Chu Bei turned around and left as soon as he finished speaking. At the same time, in the Shao mansion. In a luxurious and exquisite house. You've been absorbing my dou qi for the past 3 years? Turning me from a genius to a piece of trash? Although Xiaoyan's voice was cold, there was not much hatred in his eyes. The reason why he could be so calm was perhaps because not only had his cultivation returned, but it had also become even more powerful. If this was before he met Chu Bei, he would probably want to chop the culprit in front of him into pieces. In front of Xiaoyan's body, there was a black ancient ring floating in the air. Above the ring, a transparent old man's figure was floating. Little kid, you are much calmer than I thought. I thought you would be furious when you saw me. The transparent old man smiled as he stared at Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan let out a cold laugh. Old man, because of you, I have been ridiculed for the past 3 years. But if it weren't for those curses, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to completely understand this world and have the patience and wisdom I have now. So, don't you have to thank me? The old man laughed out loud. I'm curious. Why didn't you stay in the ring all the time? Why did you come out today? Xiaoyan looked at the old man's figure with interest. Could it be that there is no one to give you dou qi and you can't hold on anymore? Since I've already awakened, I naturally don't need to absorb your dou qi anymore. The old man stroked his beard. It's just that because of me, you have suffered a lot in the past 3 years. I feel guilty, so I want to help you become a real powerhouse. I have my own way to become stronger. I don't need to trouble you. Xiaoyan replied indifferently. Are you referring to that merchant? The old man narrowed his eyes. His methods are quite strange. Even I can't see through them. Although it seems that he can indeed make you stronger quickly, don't forget that he is a merchant. You only got what you wanted from him because you gave him money. With the financial resources of your entire Shao family, I'm afraid it will be difficult to support your future cultivation needs. Moreover, the continent is so big. You will always have to go out and gain experience. He can't always stay by your side. As for me, I can always stay by your side and guide you in your cultivation. Although your cultivation speed may not be as fast as his, it is better to take one step at a time and be more solid. The old man guided patiently. In addition, I can also make you the most famous alchemist in the continent. Alchemist? Xiaoyan's expression froze. In the dou qi continent, as long as one was a person, they would want to become an alchemist. But the requirements to become an alchemist were extremely harsh. It is not easy to become an alchemist. In addition to having talent, you also need an experienced alchemist to guide you. Speaking up to here, Xiaoyan probed. Could it be that you are also an alchemist? If not, why would I say such words? The old man was quite proud. What grade? Xiaoyan's eyes were filled with curiosity. On the dou qi continent, although alchemists were rare, there was a clear ranking system. From the lowest to the highest, they were ranked from 1 to 9. In the Kama Empire's alchemist world, the most famous alchemist was Pil King Gu He. He was a 6th grade alchemist. You will know this in the future. But what I can tell you is that my alchemy skills are at the top even in the entire continent. The old man pretended to be mysterious and was incomparably confident. Doja pill, can you refine them? Xiao Yan seemed to have thought of something and couldn't help but ask. Hearing Xiao Yan's words, the old man's expression became incomparably awkward. That guy's pills, although the effects are good, it is impossible to trace the origin of the medicinal herbs. It is like a wild pill. The old man replied. To put it bluntly, you can't refine it? Looks like your alchemy skills aren't that great. Xiao Yan pointed out the essence and pretended to ridicule. If there is a pill formula, maybe I can give it a try. The old man's expression became even uglier. He is a special case. Have you heard of the other products he sells? Moreover, among the pills I can refine, there is no lack of better pills than the Doja pill. Forget it, I'll just take it that you have some skills in alchemy. Xiao Yan waved his hand. His gaze stared intently at the old man as he said, However, there is no such thing as a free lunch in this world. I don't believe that you want to help me because of your guilt over these 3 years. Little guy, you are really a smart person. The old man's wrinkled face was like a blooming peach. I want you to refine a suitable body for me when you have enough strength in the future. No problem. As a transmigrator from Earth, Xiao Yan blurted out this kind of illusory promise. I hope I didn't misjudge you this time. The old man nodded his head in satisfaction. I have been respectfully addressed as Yao Lao by the people of the world. In the future, you can call me Master or Yao Lao. Chapter 41. At the end of East Suburb's prosperous street. A luxurious mansion was located here. In midair, a figure flashed past quickly and silently landed on the courtyard wall. Chu Bei scanned the mansion's environment expressionlessly. The reason why he targeted the Mo family was because the Mo family's ancestor once had a strange temperament alchemist. He was not very interested in traditional alchemy. Instead, he focused on studying some strange things. For example, he removed some strong claws or bones from some magical beasts and transplanted them into the human body. Other than that, once he discovered that some humans had a special physique or had some mutated organs, he would think of ways to capture them and transplant them into his own people, increasing their strength greatly. Coincidentally, Qing Lin's triple jade green snake flower pupils was different from ordinary people and easy to discover. Of course, what Chu Bei was most certain of was that in the original script, the Mo family had done something to Qing Lin. Not long after, Chu Bei saw a big patrolling man with a saber in his hand and armor in his line of sight. Who is it? At this moment, the patrolling man also noticed Chu Bei. He shouted and immediately pulled out the saber at his waist. Chu Bei's figure flashed and appeared in front of the patrolling man almost instantly. He stretched out his hand. Before the patrolling man could pull out the saber at his waist, he had already grabbed the other party's throat. Where is the woman that you captured earlier? Chu Bei's voice was cold and his eyes were filled with killing intent. Meeting Chu Bei's cold gaze, the patrolling man's face instantly turned pale. Cough, cough, cough. After a series of intense coughs, he finally managed to catch his breath. The patrolling man quickly said, Sir, I'm only a patrolling man of this mansion. Currently, this mansion is rented to the Mo family. As for what you're asking, I don't know at all. However, just now, the second miss brought a group of people to the small house by the lake. They might know something. The patrolling man was obviously a person who was afraid of death. He immediately revealed what he knew and hurriedly pointed out the direction of the small house. The killing intent in Chu Bei's eyes vanished. He turned his claw into a palm and struck the back of the patrolling man's neck, knocking him out. Soon, Chu Bei found the hut that the patrolling man had mentioned. At this moment, the door of the hut was wide open. When he arrived at the door, Chu Bei immediately saw Qing Lin tied to a chair. Her face was filled with panic, and she was dressed in green. Is this the legendary triple jade green snake flower pupils? Truly extraordinary. In addition to Qinglin, there was a group of 7 people, led by a young woman. The woman wore a tight red dress with a small crystal pendant on her smooth forehead. As it swayed slightly, it added a touch of liveliness to her delicate and unruly face. "Miss, do you think that the first elder will transplant these eyes to you?" One of the guards looked at Mo Ling with a fawning expression. Seeing that Qinglin was fine, Chu Bei's expression eased up. However, when he heard the guard's words, killing intent instantly surged to his face. "Regardless of whether he's willing or not, these eyes are mine." Extending his hand to lift up Qinglin's chin, Mo Ling locked his gaze onto Qinglin's eyes, his gaze brimming with blazing desire. "Have you asked me if you want her eyes?" At this moment, a cold voice sounded from outside the house. Following which, a series of unhurried footsteps entered the house. "Audacious! Who are you? How dare you trespass into my Mo family's territory?" Looking at the sudden appearance of Chu Bei, Mo Ling frowned and a whip appeared in her hand. The 6 guards behind her immediately circulated their dou qi. "Boss!" As for Qinglin, when she saw Chu Bei, the fear on her face disappeared and was replaced with joy. "She's your woman?" Hearing how Qinglin addressed Chu Bei, Mo Ling's face turned even uglier. "Don't be afraid. You'll be able to return home in a while." Chu Bei ignored Mo Ling and walked towards Qinglin. "She's mine. No matter who you are, don't even think about taking her away." Realizing that she was being ignored, Mo Ling's whip turned into a black shadow and lashed towards Chu Bei. However, just as the whip was about to reach Chu Bei, a strand of dou qi shot out from the latter's fingertips and deflected the whip before shooting towards Mo Ling Qi. Accompanied by a miserable shriek, the dou qi sliced open Mo Ling's face. In an instant, fresh blood spurted out. A ghastly wound appeared on Mo Ling's face, causing her pretty face to be ruined. "Ah! I want you dead! I want to shred you into 1,000 pieces!" Mo Ling caressed her bleeding face and felt the deep wound. When she looked at Chu Bei again, her eyes were filled with hatred. This hatred was not due to the pain from the wound, but due to the fact that her face was ruined. "Miss, I'll report this to the first elder." Seeing this, a guard shot a glance at Chu Bei before carefully walking towards the door. When he reached the door, he suddenly sped up and left. Chu Bei did not bother about the guard who had left. In any case, Mo Qing was also on the list of people that he had to kill. "Kill! Kill him!" Mo Ling seemed to have gone crazy as she waved the whip in her hand once again and roared at the guards behind her. Looking at the incoming guards, Chu Bei did not show any emotion as he dodged and pointed out a few times. Every time he pointed out, a strand of dou qi would shoot out from his fingertips and pierce through the forehead of the person closest to him. Plop, plop, plop. In just a few seconds there were 6 more corpses at Chu Bei's feet. Chapter 42. I really didn't expect that this small Wu-Tan city actually hid such a treasure. I am really lucky. Sitting in the leader's seat was a white-haired old man in luxurious clothes. He was the Mo clan's great elder Mo Qing and also the pillar of the Mo clan. The Mo clan being able to have its current status was mostly due to his efforts. "Great elder, something big has happened!" Accompanied by a series of hurried footsteps, a figure rushed into the hall in a panic. "How dare you! Don't you know where this is? Rushing in like this!" In the hall, a middle-aged man stood up and shouted. "Speak, what happened?" Mo Qing frowned and coldly looked at the guard kneeling on the ground. "Great elder, someone has barged in. He wants to take away the girl that you captured earlier and even injured Mississippi," the guard hurriedly said. "What? There is actually someone who dares to barge into my territory in this small Wu-Tan city." Mo Qing fiercely slammed the table, and with a loud sound, the table was smashed into pieces. "Let's go and take a look." However, just as Mo Qing stood up and prepared to head to the small house by the lake, two figures walked into the hall at a moderate pace. "Great Elder, it's him!" Seeing Chu Bei, the guard's expression suddenly changed. "What did you do to Miss? You can go and see her in a while." Chu Bei placed his hands behind his back, his eyes emitting a cold light, and his voice was calm. "You killed Mo Ling?" Hearing Chu Bei's words, Mo Cheng's expression instantly became gloomy to the extreme, and killing intent emerged in his eyes. "Not only her, but all of you as well." Chu Bei's gaze swept across everyone in the hall, including Mo Cheng, and the dou qi in his body gushed out. "Dou Ling elite!" Sensing the strong dou qi wave released by Chu Bei, the Mo clan's core members in the hall had a shocked expression on their faces at the same time. They didn't expect that there was actually a Dou Ling elite in Wutan City. Due to the existence of the system, as long as Chu Bei didn't circulate his dou qi, no matter how strong a person was, they wouldn't be able to determine his cultivation. It was only when Chu Bei deliberately released his dou qi that the surrounding people could determine Chu Bei's cultivation level. "Although you have really surprised me, you are ultimately only a 3-star Dou Ling." Shock flashed across Mo Cheng's eyes. Soon after, he let out a cold cry and a surging dou qi ripple erupted. In terms of power and influence, it was even slightly stronger than Chu Bei's. "First Elder, you must avenge the young miss," the guard who was still kneeling on the ground said. Mo Cheng glanced at the guard indifferently before his gaze returned to Chu Bei. Following which, a sinister smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. In the next moment, Mo Cheng curled his body and his left arm shook violently. A ferocious hidden force tore his sleeves to shreds. On his half-exposed arm, blue veins bulged like small snakes. His palms and fingernails also expanded several times in an instant, and their color became incomparably black. Within a few breaths, Mo Cheng's originally normal arm had completely broken away from the shape of a human. It was more like the forelimbs of some kind of magical beast. "That is the mountain-breaking arm!" The First Elder actually transplanted the front limbs of the rank 5 magical beast, the blazing flame mountain-breaking rhinoceros, into his body. With this mountain-breaking arm, even if that person's cultivation level is similar to the First Elder's, he would not be able to withstand a punch from the First Elder. Seeing Mo Cheng's large red arm, the core upper echelon of the Mo clan in the hall involuntarily cried out in surprise. "Die!" As the dense cold cry sounded, Mo Cheng's feet suddenly stepped on the pillar behind him. Immediately, his body shot towards Chu Bei like a cannonball. As he charged, the large palm that had expanded several times was pressed against the ground. The sharp fingers tore 5 deep gullies on the hard floor. It really is the First Elder's style. He never underestimates his enemy. The moment he attacks, he uses his strongest killing move. Seeing the terrifying strength that erupted from Mo Cheng's right arm, the faces of the remaining members of the Mo clan were shocked. Mo Cheng's speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he had already appeared in front of Chu Bei. The large palm viciously swung downwards. The moment the palm was swung, the surrounding air seemed to have been smashed by this terrifying force, creating an ear-piercing sonic boom. However, Chu Bei, who was facing this palm, did not have any change in his expression. There was not the slightest bit of fear. Chu Bei did not dodge or avoid. He only waved his right hand, and a surging dou qi sucked the wide blade in the hands of the guard not far away into his palm. "Heaven-defying 7-demon blade!" A low and deep voice was spat out from Chu Bei's mouth. At the same time, the wide blade in Chu Bei's hand danced rhythmically. "Kacha, kacha!" As the wide blade danced, a green dragon actually appeared on the originally ordinary hilt of the blade. Wherever the blade passed, a thin and long black lightning appeared, bringing with it endless dark demonic aura that came from nowhere and surged into the blade. Amidst the lightning and thunder, the blade crazily absorbed the demonic aura. Outside the blade, a cold blade glow was gradually formed. Furthermore, the blade glow quickly became longer and wider, faintly becoming substantial. Finally, the green dragon that appeared out of nowhere on the hilt of the blade also seemed to have come alive. The eyes of the dragon's head opened and closed continuously, faintly emitting a dragon's roar. As the black lightning around the wide blade disappeared, a clanging sound of metal resonated throughout the entire hall. At this moment, as the wielder of the blade, Chubei actually felt a sense of loss in his heart. An inexplicable feeling of invincibility rose in his heart. It was a kind of confidence, as if with a blade in hand, there was no hero in the world who could compete with him. Although he was not as strong as he thought. However, to have an indomitable aura that could even give up one's life, this was the mystery of the heaven-defying seven-demon blade. The heaven-defying seven-demon blade was a commodity that came from a plane called the Divine Mausoleum. It was worth 10,280 willpower points. It was also the strongest permanent blade technique that Chubei could exchange for with his current strength. Feeling the increasingly terrifying wide blade in Chubei's hand, Mo Cheng's expression gradually became serious. At the same time that the battle energy armor condensed on the surface of his body, the speed of his palm landing increased by a notch. Chubei wielded the blade and swung it out. With a swing of the blade, 7 blade glows shot out. The speed of the blade glows that appeared later was slightly faster than the previous one. Very quickly, these blade glows stacked together. With every stack, the aura of the blade glows would rise by a level. When the 7 blade glows stacked together again, the black lightning that had originally disappeared reappeared around the blade glows. In an instant, the aura rose to an unparalleled peak. Clang! The blade glows collided with Mo Cheng's mutated palm. The ear-piercing sound of metal clashing resounded. The energy ripples that were emitted shook the ground until countless gullies were formed, spreading far and wide. The members of the Mo family who were watching the battle in the hall immediately covered their ears. Each and every one of them was terrified. However, without waiting for the sound of metal clashing to disappear, Mo Cheng's miserable cries filled the entire hall. His mutated right arm was chopped into pieces by the blade glows, scattering all over the floor. Chapter 43. Great Elder! Witnessing this scene, the rest of the Mo family members in the hall exclaimed in shock. Their shouts were filled with anxiety and worry. However, under their fearful gazes, the terrifying gleam of the sword continued to sweep forward, not giving Mo Cheng any chance to dodge. Swoosh! The gleam of the sword flashed past. It directly pierced through the middle of Mo Cheng's eyebrows. Following which, it fiercely slashed at the wall far away. Accompanied by a loud bang, the wall of the hall was split into 2 halves. A terrifying crack that was a few meters wide appeared. Turning back to look at Mo Cheng, the originally upright body from the middle of his eyebrows to the middle of his legs was split into 2 and fell to the ground with a loud bang. Brain matter, intestines, and internal organs flowed all over the ground. The bloody scene was nauseating and unbearable to look at. Wretch, Qing Lin only took one look at Mo Cheng's corpse and she almost vomited out everything in her stomach. Even the rest of the Mo family members in the hall, who had experienced countless scenes, could not help but cover their eyes with their hands. They did not dare to take another look at Mo Cheng's dead body. As for the guard who was closest to the corpse, he was already trembling in fear. A puddle of yellow liquid covered the surroundings. Gradually, there was a dead silence in the hall. Qing Lin, close your eyes first. Chubei's calm voice broke the silence. Okay. Qing Lin responded softly. When she heard Chubei's words, her tense expression seemed to have been released. Sir, this has nothing to do with us. The girl beside you was caught by the Great Elder alone. As for the rest of the people in the hall, after Chubei spoke, their eyes were filled with fear. Chubei ignored the pleas of the people in the hall. He raised his hand and the sword fell. None of the Mo family members were kind people. There were countless people who died in their hands because of transplants. A few seconds later, Chubei carried Qing Lin and left, leaving behind a sea of blood. Qing Lin, are you all right? Inside the All Heavens shop, as soon as the little doctor saw Chubei and Qing Lin, she hurriedly put down what she was doing and ran up to Qing Lin, sizing her up. Sister Sienna, with boss here, I'll be fine, Qinglin replied softly. That's good, that's good. Hearing this, the little doctor patted her chest and let out a long sigh, as if a heavy stone had been lifted from her heart. Boss, who are the people who kidnapped Qinglin? After calming down, the little doctor asked. A powerful family from the northeast. They specialize in hunting those who are different from ordinary people, Chu Bei replied. Are you saying that they have their eyes on Qinglin's triple jade green snake flower pupils? Little Doctor immediately thought of the reason why Qinglin had been captured. Yes. Chu Bei nodded slightly. Thud, thud, thud. Just as the little doctor was about to say something, a series of hurried footsteps came from outside the door. Then, an old man with a head full of white hair walked in. Boss Chu, I'm here to see you. The address you left is true, which makes me believe your words a little more. This white-haired old man was naturally the Ice Emperor Hypedon, who had stayed behind to guard the desert city. I'm a businessman. My #1 motto is to be honest and trustworthy. Why would I lie to you? As soon as he finished speaking with a smile, Chu Bei gave Qinglin a look, indicating for her to pour a cup of tea for Hypedon. I'm sure you know why I'm here. Hypedon took the tea and said, Then let's make it short. Let's start with 20 times. With that, Hypedon took out 16 million gold coins from his storage ring. Chu Bei gave a knowing smile and was also straightforward and efficient. With a wave of his sleeve, a golden disc appeared with a hum, emitting a blinding light. At the top of the disc, the words, Level 6 Wheel of Fortune, were engraved. The system obtained 160,000 willpower. The host received 80,000 willpower. The system's voice sounded. The needle turned. Ding! Amidst the crisp sounds, 20 exquisite square boxes were placed in front of Bai Buodong one after another. Because of his previous experience, Hypedon knew the probability of winning the lottery. In addition to anticipation, there was also some nervousness in his eyes. Bang! The 20 boxes exploded at the same time. Boss Chu, this? Looking at the 20 boxes lined up in front of him with the words, Thank you for your patronage. Hypedon was stunned. Last time, at least one of the 20 boxes had a piece of silver armor that could defend against all attacks from a 3-star Do Wang. But this time, the 16 million gold coins didn't even make a splash. The host has encountered the first buyer with less than 5 luck. As a consolation reward, the probability of winning the next wheel will be increased to 100%. Chu Bei was just about to comfort Hypedon when the system's voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Boss Chu, as a businessman, can you give me an explanation? I trusted you so much, but this is the result I got in return? Hippodon's face was extremely gloomy. If he hadn't been taken advantage of before, he really wanted to use force to force the other party to hand over the treasures he needed. Forget it, forget it. Seeing that you went through so much trouble to come here from the desert city, I'll make an exception for you today. Chu Bei pretended to be speechless and sighed. You can turn 2 more wheels. This time, I guarantee you'll win. As his voice fell, Chu Bei looked at the pitiful person in front of him who was judged by the system to have less than 5 luck. Is it really a sure hit? Hypedon was stunned at first, then his face was filled with joy and excitement. Then I'll turn 2 more wheels. If I can really recover my cultivation, it'll be worth it even if I have to go bankrupt. Hypedon took out 16 million gold coins again. The system has gained 160,000 willpower. The host has gained 80,000 willpower. According to the host's cultivation, the host has reached the limit of gold coins sold today. The system's voice sounded. The needle turned. Ding! In the crisp sound, 20 exquisite square boxes were placed in front of Hypedon one after another. Boom! The 20 square boxes exploded. Except for the first square box, which was engraved with the strange 9-pointed formation pattern of stars, the other 19 boxes were all the same. Thank you for your patronage. Above the 9-sided rune, the words reverse seal formation were shining with a brilliant radiance. Boss Chu, this is the formation pattern that you said can break my seal. Hippodon's eyes were fixed on the 9-pointed formation pattern, his eyes filled with passion. That's right. Chu Bei responded and told him how to use it. Boss Chu, actually, I don't need to buy 2 sets, I can win just by buying one. After Hypon murmured, he carefully placed his palm on the seal formation. Hum! A ripple appeared, the strange formation pattern first appeared under Hippodon's feet, then the eye of the formation released tens of thousands of bright lights, pouring into Hippodon's body from bottom to top. In an instant, visible changes occurred in Hippodon's body. The tens of thousands of bright lights instantly covered Hippodon's limbs and bones. Under these lights, the snake seal that was originally hidden in Hippodon's body was instantly destroyed, disappearing without a trace. In less than a few seconds, Hippodon's aura began to rise, becoming stronger and stronger. Chapter 44. Rumble. An incomparably terrifying energy burst out from Bai Buidong as the center. An ear-piercing dochi storm formed in the room, tearing through the air. However, just as this energy storm formed, 2 red lights shot out from the eyes of the iron lump, Xiao Hei, who was quietly standing in the corner not far away. Under these 2 red lights, the energy storm around Hypedon was instantly suppressed and annihilated. Who, after a long time, Hypedon slowly opened his eyes. Thank you. Hypedon, who had recovered his cultivation to 5 stars of Do Huang, seemed to have changed into a different person. Black hair replaced the white hair from before, and his skin had also become smooth. He seemed to be in high spirits. You are the buyer, and I am the seller. It is a fair trade, there is no need to thank me. Chu Bei calmly replied. Although that is the case, a seller like you can only be found by chance. If it were not for you, I am afraid that I would not have been able to return to the Do Huang realm until my death. Hypedon clearly became more polite to Chu Bei. He clenched his fists and bowed deeply before looking at the iron lump in the corner. That is? Bai Buidong asked probingly. There was a tinge of fear in his eyes. Previously, when his cultivation had recovered, he had intended to test Chu Bei's strength. For this reason, he did not suppress the energy storm. Unexpectedly, the seemingly unremarkable iron lump made a move before Chu Bei. What made his heart palpitate was that the moment the 2 red lights shot out, although he could not feel any dochi fluctuations, there was a strange invisible force that restrained them. Under that force, even though he had recovered his peak cultivation, he still could not summon the slightest bit of courage. It was a kind of instinctive fear. My shop's housekeeper. Chu Bei looked at Xiao Hei and said casually. Boss Chu is really a strange person. Even your shop's housekeeper is different from the rest. Hypedon once again cupped his hands towards Chu Bei. Boss Chu, I still have things to do. When I am free, I will visit again. Remember, as long as you have money, no matter what you want, I have it here. Looking at Hippodon's back, Chu Bei smiled. Hippodon's footsteps paused, then he waved his hand and smiled. You must be a frequent customer. Not long after Bai Buidong left, Chu Bei took out 150,000 of the 160,000 points of willpower, and used them to exchange for his cultivation. From a Do Ling 3 stars to a Do Ling 6 stars. As for the remaining 10,000, it was used for emergencies. As time passed, news of the Mo clan's annihilation began to spread out. Have you heard? The number 1 mansion on eastern Zhejiang's prosperous street was destroyed. Of course we know, the news has already spread. Over the years, those who were able to live in that mansion were not small. Do you know who lived there this time? As far as I know, it was the Mo clan. Mo clan? One of the 4 great clans in the northeast? Other than them, which other Mo clan in the Jiama Empire? Oh my God! Looks like the person who killed them is not an ordinary person. Unfortunately, we don't know who this person is. Every street, restaurant, tea house, As long as there were people, they couldn't avoid this topic. Primer auction house, in front of the door. Yafei was standing on the back of a second-rank flying beast. What? The Mo clan are all dead. Hearing the news from the guard, Yafei's charming face flashed with a trace of astonishment. What kind of enmity did they have? After the shock, Yafei looked into the distance and whispered, Yafei, do you know something? Master Gu and I on the side seemed to have heard something, and his gaze fell on Yafei, full of doubt. Yafei took a deep breath and shook her head. She hurriedly changed the topic. I still have important matters to attend to. Let's hurry back to the clan. Shao Mansion. In the main hall, the core members of the Shao family sat upright. Shao Zhan sat at the head of the table. On both sides of him were the three elders of the Shao family. As for Shao Yan, he sat at the last seat on the right. This Mo clan is one of the three great clans in the northeast. This time around, there were many strong people, especially the first elder Mo Qing. His cultivation is already a Dou Ling 5-star. Shao Zhan's gaze swept across the three elders beside him. The person who killed them is at least a Dou Ling 6-star. When did such a strong person appear in our Wu-Tan city? If my guess is correct, the person who killed them should have been following them all the way. It was only after they landed in Wu-Tan city that they decided to act. The first elder guessed. Clan leader, I'm afraid you've forgotten that the strong people that appeared in our Wu-Tan city are not limited to Dou Ling, the third elder said. You're talking about Boss Chu? With the third elder's reminder, Shao Zhan's expression changed. But this Boss Chu has been in Wu-Tan city for many years. Logically speaking, he shouldn't have any interactions with the Mo clan. Why would he want to kill them? Shao Zhan raised his confusion. I didn't say that he killed the Mo clan. The third elder replied. Ta ta ta! At this moment, accompanied by the sound of hurried footsteps, a guard quickly ran into the main hall. This guard respectfully bowed towards Shao Zhan, and then gave the second elder a look. How's the investigation? The second elder looked at the guard and asked faintly. Elder, that young girl is indeed related to Boss Chu. The guard replied. As expected. Hearing the guard's reply, the second elder put down the tea in his hand. Do you know something? Not only Shao Zhan, but the other clan members in the main hall also looked at the second elder. In the morning, my subordinates saw the Mo clan catch a young girl on the street. Coincidentally, that young girl was with the little doctor. Although we have some friendship with the little doctor, he also recognized that she was from the Mo clan and didn't dare to act rashly. After all, the Mo clan isn't something that our Shao family can offend. The second elder leisurely said. I thought that young girl was only a friend of the little doctor. I didn't think that she would have an unusual relationship with Boss Chu. Why didn't you say this earlier? Hearing this, Shao Zhan's face darkened. Fortunately, that girl is fine. Otherwise, our Shao family would be implicated. Speaking up to here, Shao Zhan's gaze swept across all the clan members in the main hall. In the future, if there is anything that involves Boss Chu or the people around him, report it to me immediately. Kama Sacred City, the capital of the Kama Empire. In terms of area, it was dozens or even hundreds of times the size of Wu-Tan City. Even though it was already evening, the streets of the city were still very lively with people coming and going. In the western district of the Sacred City, there was a large and imposing mansion. The words primer were especially clear on the plaque on the gate of the mansion. Regardless of whether it was outside or inside the mansion, there were armored guards holding spears patrolling very seriously. The Primer clan was one of the three great clans of the Kama Empire. Their Primer auction house was located in all the major cities of the empire and was quite prestigious. Chapter 45. Primer Family Headquarters, Main Hall. Yafei, are you joking with me? You want me to hold a heaven-level auction in a remote place like Wu-Tan City? And you want me to use all the power of the family to publicize it? An old man in a luxurious robe sat at the head of the hall. He frowned. If he really has such a treasure, then let him sell it in the imperial capital. It's impossible for me to hold a heaven-level auction in a small city like Wu-Tan City. The old man in the luxurious robe was called Tingshan. He was the head of the Primer family and one of the top 10 experts of the Kama Empire. Yafei, your request is simply nonsense. What kind of status does our Primer family have in the Kama Empire? Moreover, how much do you know about that person? I'm afraid he's just a swindler. Another old man in the hall said. If you don't want to train outside, then come back quickly. Head elder, please believe me this once. This auction will definitely raise the reputation of our Primer family to a higher level in the Kama Empire. Yafei bit her lips slightly. Her gaze was fixed on Tingshan with a pleading look. I won't change my mind. This is impossible. Tingshan refused again without hesitation. Tingshan, if you don't listen to her, then will you listen to me? Just as Yafei's face was filled with loneliness and unwillingness, a light voice floated in from outside the hall. Immediately after, a figure flashed and appeared in the hall. How dare you? Who are you? How dare you trespass into our Primer family's residence? Take him down! A group of juniors in the hall coldly shouted and immediately grabbed their weapons. On the other hand, when the elders with great prestige in the family saw the appearance of the figure, their expressions changed drastically. This included Tingshan, who was sitting at the head of the table. After they recovered from their shock, they hurriedly stood up from their chairs. Their expressions became incomparably respectful. Hi! Elder Hai, I didn't expect to see you again. Tingshan's expression began to become excited. When you left and didn't return, we used all of our strength but still couldn't find any trace of you. Something happened these past few years, so I went into seclusion. But now, everything is fine. The person who had suddenly barged into the hall was none other than the Ice Emperor Haidon, whose cultivation had recovered. Haidon sat in the seat that Tingshan had occupied earlier. He sipped a mouthful of tea and said, It is unexpected that you have already become an elite Do Wang after not seeing you for so many years. You've managed the Primer family well. You can continue to manage it in the future. Thank you for your praise, Old Hai. In front of Haidon, Tingshan didn't look like the head of one of the 3 major clans of the empire, but more like a child facing his elders. At this moment, the younger generation in the hall were all stunned by the scene before them. They looked at each other in dismay. It was hard for them to imagine that the first elder, who was usually extremely strict with others, would actually show such a respectful expression in front of this person who had suddenly intruded. They couldn't help but guess the identity of Haidon in their hearts. Elder Hai has been gone for dozens of years. Even if you can't recognize him, you shouldn't have forgotten the name of the Ice Emperor, an elder said to the younger generation. He is the Ice Emperor. After knowing Hippodon's identity, the younger generation opened their mouths wide. Their gazes towards Haidon were filled with worship. Old Hai, what did you say before? Tingshan seemed to have recalled something. Haidon looked at the somewhat nervous Yafei and said with a gentle tone, You are called Yafei, right? I will give you the authority to use all the clan's resources for Boss Chu's auction. You must do it to the best of your ability. Yafei was surprised at first, but when she reacted, she was pleasantly surprised and said, Are you saying that the Primer family can hold a heaven auction in Wu-Tan City? Haidon nodded and replied, Not only must you hold it, but you must also let all the forces in the Kama Empire, including the royal family, know about this auction. At this point, Haidon looked at Tingshan and said, If there is anything you need him to do, feel free to call upon him. Yes. Yafei nodded heavily. The jade hands in her sleeves trembled with excitement. Old Hai, do you know the Boss Chu that Yafei mentioned? Not only Tingshan, but the other elders in the hall also had the same puzzled expression. I have had some contact with him. Haidon put down the tea in his hand. Although he lives in a small place like Wu-Tan City, he is not simple and is full of mysteries. For people like him whose origins are unknown, We must not be enemies with them. We can only be friends with them. Moreover, indirectly speaking, he can be considered my benefactor. Even old Hai has to pay attention to someone. How could I dare to provoke him? Tingshan looked at Yafei and said, I will immediately use all the clan's power to publicize this auction. Thank you, Great Elder. Yafei's face was filled with joy. Then I will withdraw first to prepare other matters. Wutan City. On the wide street, a middle-aged man wearing a gorgeous robe walked quickly with an angry face. On his left and right were two white-haired old men and a young girl wearing a moon-white dress. Not long after this group arrived in the city, they became the focus of discussion on the streets. Hey, isn't that Nalan Yenran? Why did she come back again? In my opinion, it must be because of the annulment of the engagement a few days ago. Speaking of which, how is that annulment? It was obviously annulled. But then again, who would have thought that Xiao Yan was pretending all these years? He really played the pig to eat the tiger to the extreme. Look, who is that man beside Nalan Yenran? He looks a bit like Nalan Yenran. Could it be his father, the Empire's great general? If it is really him, then there will be a good show to watch. He must be going to the Xiao family to reason. Reason? I'm afraid they will fight. Let's go, quickly follow them. Although the sky was getting darker, because of the arrival of Nalan Su's group, the streets became more noisy and lively. Groups of pedestrians gathered together, spittle flying everywhere. Damn it! Listening to the discussion about Nalan Yenran, Nalan Su clenched his fists, the anger in his eyes grew, and his feet sped up. Kama Empire, Northeast, Yen City. Emerald Manor. Are you sure that Ling Heir and the Great Elder were killed by that merchant? In the main hall of the manor, a middle-aged man smashed the table beside him with a fist, his voice filled with killing intent. Master, this is what I found out after many inquiries. It is definitely not wrong. A black-clothed man said respectfully, the girl that was caught by the Great Elder has the triple jade-green snake flower pupils. If he can kill the Great Elder, he must be at least a 6-star Do Ling. Mo Lan's eyes were cold in the forest. If we want to take revenge, just us alone is not enough. We still have to go to the Yunnan sect. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.